Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. How are you? Thank you for joining us for the second EIT Food and Fun event, the annual event that will help startups transform our food system in healthier, more sustainable, and more trusted. This event will give you the tips and tricks to become the best agri-food startup and will empower you to change the world for better with very interesting and inspiring talks, connections, and useful information on the new reality for startups after COVID-19. My name is Vanessa Sanchez Goñi. I am a journalist based in the Basque Country, Spain. We're actually broadcasting from Bilbao. It's the largest city in this region located in northern Spain. Así que, Egunon, os damos la bienvenida a este segundo evento EIT Food and Fun para startups del sector agroalimentario. Estamos haciendo, como veis, este evento online o principalmente online debido al coronavirus. Es una pandemia que nos está obligando a innovar mucho y a adaptarnos para intentar aprovechar y sacar el máximo fruto, desde luego, a todas las oportunidades que se nos están presentando. Nos adaptamos, no solo en eventos, también seguramente lo estáis haciendo
at an event level.
día
I'm
a
sure
día en
you
el
are
sector
all adapting every day in the agri-food sector. So here we are to make use of all these opportunities that may bear fruit. We're going to try to get you all into contact with the different stakeholders in this sector. There are 255 people attending this event, both entrepreneurs, companies from the agri-food sector and investors. So we invite you to use the app. Please register at the Conversation Starter app so that you can get into contact with all the people that you're going to be interested in that will help you grow. This isn't just a networking space. Before a networking, we're hoping you'll be able to be inspired by some of the talks that we're going to hear. And there are different startups actually that have already benefited from the EIT food assistance programs.
Food sector and our food system together. Now I'm going to welcome Begoña Pérez Villarreal. You are EIT Food South Director. Begoña, bienvenida. Todo tuyo, adelante. Vas a abrir oficialmente este encuentro.
Egunon, buenos días.
Good morning.
To all. Es estupendo estar de
Welcome
nuevo
everybody. It's fantastic to be here at the Fun and Fan event. It's the second time that we're here. And what we're celebrating here is celebrating entrepreneurship in our sector. This year, there are a few of us here up on a set, but the majority of you are behind a screen. But altogether, what we're going to try to do is to enjoy ourselves. There have been many, many changes this year. We've seen that. There have been changes in society, changes to economy, environmental changes, and not all of them have been bad. We now travel by bike a lot more in cities. City air has been a lot cleaner for a few months anyway. And of course, all that change brings us are opportunities, especially if we want to leave our comfort zone, leave fear behind, leave uncertainty behind, and of course, use these opportunities to innovate in our sector. In EIT Food, we're by no means behind the game, and we here are trying to drive forward this mission of changing the way we produce food and the way we consume food here in Europe. We're doing that together with the primary sector and together with the food sector. The food sectors, people in the food sector have been proven to be very brave. They still are very brave. We're very clear about what the challenges the sector face are. We're also very clear that entrepreneurship can make these challenges and this innovation reach HR sector earlier rather than later. So we feel that the food and the primary sector need to join together and jointly fund the development of these newly created companies, these startups. That's what we're here for. We've got both types of audience here at this event. In EI2 Food, what we do is attract talent, and what we try to do is to get ideas to focus on what is relevant. You'll see that in the second part of today's event. But today's program is going to help us also find out in detail the changes that the sector's gone through, and that we are sure the majority of them will probably actually stay with us at least for a few months. We'll have the viewpoint from the other side of the pond, the American viewpoint. We'll also be able to see these changes in a European format, and we can also see how some issues and opportunities have accelerated, which are entrepreneurial based. So the 4 areas that we feel have been accelerated are food safety and quality, especially when we talk about soft preservation technologies, those that preserve the components of the food. What's more, food has never been closer to health as it has been today. We now have a fashion of cooking at home. That helps us eat more healthily and adapt our food to our taste. When we talk about traceability, that's another issue, very, very essential if we're going to adapt our production models and make them more resilient, stronger, just in case anything happens. The search for alternative protein sources has been another area that has been strengthened. But in addition to talking about changes in innovation, opportunities, we're going to also talk, of course, about funding. And to talk about funding, there's going to be some very interesting people here today. And as we know, today is the day of the women in rural areas. So we're going to be having a panel talking about entrepreneurial women in a sector. But not only is today the day of women in farming, tomorrow is the day of food. We're going to be celebrating that a day before, i.e. today, and we're going to be celebrating it with the founder of a startup who's been accepted on one of the acceleration programs that EIT Food organizes. It's also going to be a very interesting talk, I'm sure. So without further ado, we've got a very tasty menu. We hope you enjoy it. So let's get started. Let's start our party, as it were.
Begoña, muchas gracias. Bueno, ya estamos viendo, está claro.
Thank you very much, Begoña. She has said to us that the agri-food sector is changing a lot, and there's a lot still to change. Let's now see that with different examples. Examples from the other side of the Atlantic, and also from this side, from Europe.
Changing from 2 different perspectives. First of all, we are going to the United States. Einav Giffen, Corporate Executive Chief at Unilever Food Solutions in North America, will give us the USA vision of this transformation, and we will get the European vision from Paola Giavedoni. She is EIT Food Director of Innovation. Of course, if you have any questions from the audience, please send them to the speakers, and we will ask them at the end of their talks. But first of all, let's listen to them. Einav Giffen, good morning, early morning. You are in New Jersey, aren't you?
I am in New Jersey, and it's very, very dark here still.
I don't know if you even got the chance to go to sleep or not yet.
I tried, but it didn't work.
Okay, well, but first of all, we are really willing to listen to you about the changes, the transformation in the agri-food sector from your perspective as a chief of the sector. So I give you the floor.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Begonia and the EIT for having me speak. It's an honor. Enough to wake up in the middle of the night, and too bad that I can't be in Bilbao and definitely have some amazing food. So maybe next year. But really, I wanted to share with you, and I will try to do my best because so much is happening to touch on the key points of what we're seeing in lieu of COVID and the impact on the food systems in the United States. So if the slides are up, there we go. Thank you very much. And we can flip to the second slide, please. And so we're not unique in the sense that the COVID-19 crisis have been impacting the United States. Everybody in the world has been impacted in one way or another. However, like some other countries, the lack of guidance that was not coming in a timely manner really hurt the industry here. And with the food service and the hospitality on the front line, we have seen drop of up to 70%, 70%, in the month of March, April, and the beginning of May in consumption of out-of-home dining. And that was offset by huge behavior of buying into in-home cooking. What we see right now, just to give you a brushstroke of where we are today, is some plateauing of the playing field. So there is some adjustment to this way of living. We have seen dining out occasions dropping somewhat, but with more occasions of eating. So 22% eating outside, but more than 4 times a week, which means that people are somewhat tired of cooking at home and are seeking different experiences. And we have seen lunchtime picking up again. For the past 8 months, breakfast and lunchtime was non-existent as people just ate at home and maybe ordered something for dinner. What we do not see yet is a recovery of the hospitality section. Hotels, airlines, cruise lines are very much still at close to zero capacity. And also colleges and universities are very, very scarce with very minimal food service. And I will explain why I'm specifically talking about that, because it does have a domino effect on the supply chain. If we can flip to the next slide. Next slide, please. Thank you. So, not surprisingly, I'm sure by now to anyone, COVID exposed a broken supply chain, meaning that the way we used to do things in a very global, very big way, trying to mobilize huge amount of food to distribution centers and then to supermarkets, proven to be not fit and not agile enough in times of a crisis. It came to a point where, and this is the photo that you see up on the screen, is from my grocery store in my neighborhood. This is not a Google store photo stock. This is actually from the grocery store by me. Just one morning when we went to do grocery shopping, and this is how the shelves looked like. People were hoarding foods for home, and there was shortage of everything. Everything you can think of. Funny enough, the things that stayed on the shelf the longest were vegan food items. And I'm going to come back to that as well. But that really shone a light on a supply chain system or a food system that is not efficient enough. It's in essence too big to adjust and be agile to fit any crisis. We could not mobilize food from fields to distribution centers, and from distribution centers to supermarkets or food banks leaving a long line of cars of people that needed food for their household from food banks and couldn't get it, leaving supermarkets empty with nothing to supply them, leaving delivery time via Amazon of toilet paper of 6 weeks in the 21st century in United States of America. If we can flip to the next slide, please. Before I go into the latest prediction, I want to touch a little bit on what I talked about with the domino effect of the supply chain. In essence, if there is shortage in one place, if a restaurant that is opening at a smaller capacity, not knowing how many people will actually come and dine out, with outdoor dining that is depending on its income and a rainy day, and not being able to have a delivery system in place in a timely manner, a chef cannot plan what to order on a day-to-day. And with closure looming all the time, not knowing if COVID case is going to go up and another closure will come up, we saw a huge drop in purchasing of fresh ingredients and more of shelf stable. In general, the demand reduced by 70%, as I mentioned, which meant that distribution centers were stuck with a supply or ran out of supply, which meant that big companies, manufacturers such as Unilever, where I am working, could not plan for a demand. And this is very much in a nutshell because all of us had to implement COVID ways of working with social distancing and safety in place, meaning that we needed to also plan for our supply chain in advance without any ability to predict what the demand will be. You couldn't supply in time on one end, or you were left with too much stock on the other end. Also, the latest prediction as of this week actually say that about 50% of restaurants, and those are mainly small restaurants, 1, 2, 3 unit chains, will have to close by the end of this year because it's just not profitable to operate in such a manner. However, on the flip side of that, we know that about 25% of those 50 will reopen again in some sort of a format, either under new ownership or with a new concept. We have seen chefs and restaurants that have pivoted very quickly and being very creative and innovative in how they are servicing the community, managing to get by. And it's only getting by, it's only surviving. And really the only segment in our food system and the food industry that is showing signs of comeback is our national chain segment. They were geared to have a takeout and delivery systems before this happened. They pivoted really quickly for digital or contactless type of a dining. They had parking lots where they could have people wait until a table was available, and more means and financial help behind them to hold on through the hard time, and now also sees the opportunity of many other restaurants closing to take over the space and reopen with new locations. So it's nice and not so nice. It's happy because we see some segments are coming to life, but this is at the cost of a lot of smaller restaurants that could not survive this reality. Next slide, please. So we took a huge hit here in the food industry and the food systems in general. The shortages that we have seen in the supermarkets also translated to extremely higher prices of any commodity. On average, the average basket for a household went up by 20 to 30%, which is ridiculous. On some of the items, the day-to-day items, when families are already strapped, if a person lost their job or they can't go and work or they were furloughed, to also needing to pay more for food in the grocery store. In parallel path, we saw a hit in the meat industry with some of the big plants of meat production here in the United States being impacted by COVID with sick workers and needing to either close or really diminish their function to a much smaller amount. This was an opportunity to alternative proteins and alternative meats in particular. We have seen a huge uplift in the demand for all the alternative meats, mainly the big players here, which is Beyond Meat and Impossible, that made a splash in the market prior to that, but a lot more smaller players that came into the market, and bigger players too, and found demand in this reality. And as was said before, cooking at home also forced people to buy things they may not have eaten before, just because they couldn't find what they needed in the supermarket. So you find yourself cooking more vegetables or cooking dishes that otherwise you wouldn't have cooked at home. With the restaurant industry, we had an interesting up and down. The government came to the help of people here with a boost in unemployment, which was really a lifesaver for many people. However, in the food industry, which is a segment that already, for the most part, making minimum wages, it ended up being a blessing curse mixture. Because yes, you could get money if you are obviously a documented person in the United States, but now you made more money at home than you would have in a restaurant. And 40% of employees of the industry chose not to come back to work even when the restaurant they worked in opened, because they just made more money being at home. This created huge strain on an industry that was already starving for labor, and restaurants that just needed to try and get by and make dues couldn't get labor back in to even run on a smaller operation. So you needed to bring back other people, maybe new people. And now, on top of trying to run some sort of a business, you also need to train new people in. But we see an uplift in the hiring. So a slow and steady uplift in the hiring in restaurants. This is a good sign. We thought we're going to come back with a U-shape comeback. We came back with a V-shape comeback. It's good news. It is challenging. But we are all waiting to see what this fall and winter may come back, as we see already cases rising in Europe. And it's only indication that this is something that will happen here. Another closure will be devastating to this industry, where probably many that reopened may not be able to reopen again. If we can switch to the next slide, please. The next slide. Thank you. It's always weird to see myself. The trends that were dominant prior to COVID, funny enough, are staying, and some of them are even getting stronger. One caveat to that: for the first time in history, we have seen safety taking over the first place in consumer preference. Up till now, it was always taste, and then followed by health, wellness, nutrition, safety. It came always after taste. So what COVID did for the first time, it did put a huge emphasis on the importance of safety, needless to say, in the immediate vicinity of eating out, but also in the sense of how many people touch the apple that I will be picking up in the supermarket. People started coming home, washing their produce, their ingredients with soap or vinegar, wiping packages with antiseptic wipes, working with gloves, changing gloves, putting sanitizer after. And it's still very much the case. So safety really climbed to the top and remains as such even today. And I don't see that changing until we will have stabilization with the COVID and we'll go to some sort of normality. Another thing that we have seen with a leap forward is digitation. So the food industry, mainly food systems, on the back end, you saw a lot of technology coming in, but the adaptation was very slow on the user end, mainly in the restaurants and operations, because at the end of the day, operators or chefs like to talk to somebody. They will order at home from Amazon every day, but the leap to e-commerce and digitization was extremely slow adoption in this segment. We have seen a leap forward and willingness to adopt technology and systems that will make the operation much more efficient with less labor, with a trimmed menu, and delivery, where you have third-party deliveries and you have different entities of deliveries. Anything that helps an operator streamline this data and information and make their lives at the back of house to run their operation better seems to get momentum, as well as ghost kitchens. We see a huge uplift, especially in the last month, with many chains reaching out to ghost kitchens and opening a virtual brand under their umbrella brand to grow the revenue stream. We've also seen health and wellness really keeping its momentum in priority for consumers. If COVID did something right for us, it showed us that our health and wellness are very important for our resistance to diseases and our comeback from being sick. Needless to say, the people that got sick in the worst case possible, for the most part, had pre-conditioned or underlying condition. So we see consumers talking much more about their importance to eat better, more conscientious, healthier, less meat, and more diverse diet. And this also gives us an opportunity down the road, because right now there is a big gap there. If we can switch to the other slide, please. So as I said, it's devastating time. It really is. I said to many people that I talked to that this is in essence almost World War III. What else will bring all our globe to a halt in one time across the board? And with that, having said, and many people that are being impacted, the toll on us as human is huge. However, if we can, we should be also looking at that as an opportunity, as a time to reset, renew, restart, and refocus. And I think for all of you listeners, for all of you innovators, startuppers that are dreaming our next food systems, this is the time, because right now there is even more understanding of the need for us to do things differently. And between the need, there is also a lot of opportunity and willingness to adapt. We see e-commerce, as I said, coming back. We see digitization as a key priority. We see needs in the supply chain to make smaller, more efficient, closed food systems that will be more agile. We see the need for transparency, so consumers will know exactly what's good for them and what's not good for them, and can differentiate the noise from the reality. And we see really the opportunity for other players to give some clarity and guidance to what needs to happen for us to democratize food and really allow a healthier, better food systems down the road that will not deplete our planet. One thing I didn't mention that I think is worth talking about in this paradigm is that with the rise of safety, we have seen diminishing importance of sustainability. In essence, we have probably taken a couple of good steps back in the importance of waste and plastic. If anything, we're using more now because of all the takeout containers, utensils, gloves that we're using, plastic bags. This is also the time to remember that it is a very much important point for us as humans, so we can retain our planet. And how can we bring it back to the focal point of the food system and the food industry so we would not regress any further? So my urge to you, all listeners, companies, and dreamers, innovators, is to keep pushing forward. This is any time of turmoil, any time of challenge is a great time for also opportunities because a window of change has opened. So I hope we can make the best and really wake up in the aftermath of COVID to a better world.
Very much for your presentation. Yes, Indeed, we have to stick to all those opportunities. Please, Einaf, can you hold on and stay with us because there might be some questions for you. The question box is open for questions and comments, but now we have to see how is this transformation going from a different perspective. There might be lots of similarities, of course, but now we're going to focus on the European perspective with Paola Giavedoni. You are EIT Food Director of Innovation. Paola, I give you the floor.
Yes, good morning, Bilbao. Good morning from a tiny little place in France at the border with Switzerland. Begonia invited me to join directly in Bilbao, but this was not possible. Cross borders here in Europe has become really a nightmare. So you have to accept me to see me in video. I guess you have my first slide. I'm going to talk indeed about the effect or the impact of the COVID pandemic more on the European side, on our lives, and especially on the agri-food sector. And I have to say that listening to the previous speaker, you will see that there are a lot of similarities, and I can only confirm that also on this part of the world, we had a very similar situation. So I go straight to explain to you what has been done at EIT Food. It was a kind of analysis, and this was carried out in the month of May, June, so it's a couple of months already old. But what we did, we look at different areas, the context, the impact on the economy, society, etc. Today, I'm going to talk about what are the insights, what are the emerging themes, and what is the impact on the EIT food program, and in particular on the six focus areas that you see below: alternative proteins, the sustainable agriculture, targeted nutrition, sustainable aquaculture, digital traceability, and circular food system. So this is the subject of today's talk. I go straight to the next slide because I know that the time for us is quite short today. So what we did, we talking about insights, talking about what we have observed that was happening. We have divided the supply chain into different parts, into different sectors. And you can see, I let you read here, you can have my slides afterwards. We can just highlight like the diminishing of demand for fresh produce or fisheries. We had a surplus in raw materials, for example, milk. We had reduction of access to feed for animals, lack of seasonal workers. On the side of, for example, livestock and the slaughterhouses, this was impacting the presence of meat on our shelves on the supermarket. We had increase of plastics and packaging due to excessive also disposable materials used. We have the problem of the closure of borders. Here in particular, I think in Europe more than in US, the fact that there was a big trade disruption. Indeed, also what happened at retail level, for example, with all the extra measurements that retailers had to adopt. This created also, let's say, a big impact in the way how we approach food, how we buy food. And finally, what happened at the consumption level, consumers. We are all consumers, so you all know how much this was affecting our lives, the fact of eating at home, the fact of being more conscious of our nutrition, thinking what to eat for our families, what we were buying at the supermarket, the shift, for example, on food, on really more primary goods, more than luxury goods. So this is the general picture that we all saw. And now I go to what are the emerging themes that we have identified. So the first one is the transformation of the production and the processing model. I have to say here that the production, we mean really in particular the primary production that was severely hit, and the needs really to mitigate this damage, and also to prepare and to adapt for a future, potential future pandemics. So here is the subject of resilience. But I also want to highlight here the effect on the processing. So the need for agility in the processing plants to let's say to fulfill the supply demand swings. The second one is the diversification of the supply chain models. We have seen for the first time, let's say, the creation of new business models that they were somehow going directly from producers to consumers, um, removing somehow or eliminating sometimes intermediaries. So this direct connection, these platforms that are popping up, this is something that we can definitely consider. The third one, as it was already highlighted, also from from the European side, more attention to hygiene, more attention to safety and to preservation. So this is typically, what we can really do in the entire supply chain, but particularly also at the processing level. The fourth one is healthier and more personalized nutrition. So the fact that the whole reality has created more awareness for ourselves and for our families. There is more really awareness on what we eat, on what we buy, and more increased concerns about health. And this has created, probably is moving towards a boost on the personalization of nutrition. On this sector, on the food service sector, I think that my predecessor, Evan Einaf, has already mentioned all much more in depth on all what has happened. So I will not go much further, but I want to highlight that what we are seeing now is that this sector needs a big turnaround. And this is a huge potential, a huge opportunity also for young entrepreneurs to reinvent this sector. And finally, talking about the environmental impact, the environmental side, there was indeed the slowing down of this sustainability, let's say, agenda, sustainability attention due to this real or perceived safety issues. But in this case, we really in this subject, let's say, in this area, we really need to consider that the new innovation, they need to consider the environmental as well as the safety side of the new findings. We have also highlighted two let's say, across area, cross team subjects. One is more about food affordability, the fact that the pandemic has a profound impact on the purchasing power of the population and directly affects food affordability. This especially for vulnerable populations. This means that this will impact their diet with less nutritious products consumed and therefore a threat for their health. So this is a serious concern. And the last one, the last point is about a trend on personal data availability. That means people are more willing to share personal data for example, public safety reasons. Probably also on the news, you listen in these days a lot about these apps that they want to trace where you are and they want to trace who you have been in contact and etc. So this is a kind of emerging area. Now I move to the next slide that says, okay, how can these emerging teams can affect what EIT food focus areas are? So how can these two can be connected? And what we did, I'm not going to comment on all this, but what I wanted to show you that we created a matrix and we describe the potential effect of these emerging teams that are on the top, left to right, in connection with the focus areas that are on the left. And we highlighted, if this area could have been boosted, so with pluses or double pluses, like in this case, or it could have been, possible threats, so in minuses, or a neutral area. So you see already that there is a picture here where you can identify something around alternative proteins, about targeted nutrition, and about digital traceability. I'm going to say just a couple of words more on this coming slide that, as I said, I can really share with you afterwards. So we see on this area of alternative proteins, as also enough mentioned, the fact that there is a lack of trust from consumers from what is the traditional protein, so from meat and milk, and the shift towards more interest, looking at with more interest at other types of proteins, for example, plant-based. We have, for example, this is also another trend that is impacting. Here's the fact that people are more concerned about health and about planet at the same time. So this is converged very well into the alternative proteins trend. So we see the increase of this interest in alternative crops, but also in algae, and also in cellular meat, and so forth. Now, positive impact on agriculture and aquaculture. Targeted nutrition, we said yes, definitely is a positive impact. As you can imagine, this was already our focus area before, but we think that with COVID and with this additional awareness, there will be a boost in personalization and personalized nutrition, personal diets in this case. We consider that digitalization, and in particular in the area of traceability, will receive a significant boost due to COVID. And so we really need to be able to measure on time, having results quickly, to be able to connect these results. So we think that there will be really a positive effect on the digitalization and on the traceability along the whole supply chain. Also in Europe, we notice a kind of mixed to negative impact on the circular food system, where the safety concern has somehow slowed down the attention on the environmental side. And as I said, here there is definitely a need to combine, for example, environment and safety, and to bring this higher on the agenda. So I am nearly at the end of my talk. I'm just highlighting what are the main takeaways, so that definitely the COVID has created a big potential acceleration of innovations in our sector. And I think I want to add here that you, as young entrepreneurs, probably as you have really the right flexibility now to approach this, to create new business models, to really see this like an opportunity for you. And this could really help us in the transformation, or even to accelerate the transformation that at least here at EIT Food is one of our primary objectives. Our focus areas, they've been confirmed, and so we will keep working on this, maybe with some additional focus points, with some additional challenges on which we are working now. As already highlighted, food hygiene, safety, and the preservation will be further, let's say, boosted also, and will receive more attention in our program. And finally, the digitization of the sector will be also an important key enabler for the whole program. So what I'm doing now, okay, on the other side, you can see the next steps, but the next steps is what we are doing. So we are discussing with people, we are sharing, we are updating our information. For example, an important update is coming from a farm to fork strategy that has recently been published here in Europe. And we also want to focus more on affordable food, affordable diets for our consumers. I am at the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention. I'm here for any further question today or later on. So you know where to find me. I am at EIT Food. This is my email address.
Yes, Paola, thank you very much for your presentation. Well, actually, there is one question for you. Matt is asking, how can startups and the agri-food industry work together to solve the new challenges we are seeing in the food system after COVID-19? He wants you to go a bit farther, if you can. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Now, if we talk about startups that are already connected with us, this is relatively easy because we are really involving them now in our activities. I personally was leading the recent call for new projects exactly on this subject, on the COVID. And I have to say, yesterday we reviewed these projects. Most of them, they have startups even as leading partners. So this is really something where I see all the young startups being active in our program. And I'm sure that on the FUN program where you are, there will be initiatives and more ways to connect with the whole EIT food program in general that goes from, as you know, from education, business creation, innovation, and also communication and public engagement. If you talk about externals, I mean external startups, external entrepreneurs. I invite you to come in contact with our programs because there are several opportunities to start really from zero, to start when you have just an idea until companies or startups that are, we call them grown-ups, that are already at a good stage in their development.
Thank you very much, Paola. And one question for ANAF. Rita Martins is asking you, how do you think we can promote the consume of innovative products, ingredients at home? Consumers don't have the same capacity to use the products as chefs, so how can we promote this? And thank you in advance. We can't hear you. Hold on, ANAF. We can't hear you. Please, I think there is some audio. Yeah, now, go ahead, please, Ina.
Okay, good, lovely. So it's a very, very good question because it's a complicated matter. Reaching consumers means that you need to educate consumers. And when we say educate consumers, there is usually a big price tag attached to that. However, the way to reach consumers is through influencers. So if you go through people, opinion makers, even chefs that start talking about a product or its importance, this is how it gets into social media. We're living in an era today when actually trends are being renewed almost on a weekly basis, and it's all due to social media. So if you manage to get an influencer, you manage to get your voice out there and differentiate from the noise, you will connect with consumers. And the key is to really explain to them the added value. We need to remember that consumers at the end of the day are exposed to a lot of data, a lot of information, and it gets to a point for some of them that it may be overwhelming. So it's really important, the venue of how to get to them. Just to put something on the shelf will not work. There needs to be some legwork to do with influencer and people that will carry on the conversation behind the scene and will raise awareness of the added value of any product that is out there. So there are different creative ways. We have seen companies like Impossible Foods, like Chobani, that really broke the route to market in extremely creative and effective ways. It's just really finding the right consumer segmentation and the right need that you answer for them.
Well, thank you very much, Einaf and Paola, speaking online from America and Switzerland about the transformations due to COVID-19 in the agri-food sector. So we invite you to stick to EIT Food event, but maybe enough, it's time for you to go to sleep. So thank you very much for your effort. And We continue. Now it's time to go to another screen. Vamos a empezar ahora una mesa redonda. Además, ya salimos del online, al menos para los que estamos aquí. O sea que es agradable también con las medidas de seguridad y de prevención poder hablar y seguir avanzando sobre, en este momento, los problemas o las oportunidades que se presentan en el mundo de la inversión en el sector agroalimentario que ya han ido apuntando las personas que han intervenido hasta ahora. Has COVID forwarded the momentum for our entrepreneurship? This is our question, and may I introduce now the speakers of this interactive session. Joseph Gridley, good morning. You are EIT Food Business Creation Manager. Garbiñe Henry, Innovation and Entrepreneurship Director at the University of Deusto. Good morning. Here is with us too Ananya Mana, Investment Director at MCH Private Equity. Good morning.
Good morning.
Juan Manuel Revuelta, General Director at Sinova. And last but not least, Oscar Longares, Business Developer at Feltwood. So thank you very much to all of you for being with us for this talk, una mesa redonda en la que, bueno, después de haber conocido a los participantes,
having met the participants, and before starting this conversation, I'd like to share with you just some facts and figures that we've been reading about in the media about investment and how investment is affecting in 2020 the sector, and this is due to the pandemic. According to publications, investment stopped brusquely with this world lockdown, and it hasn't recovered yet. Are investors looking after their people that they were looking after before, or are they just concentrating on sectors that are actually now bear sectors, or bullish sectors rather? It's a very good question, because the agri-food business is a very important sector at the moment, and within the agri-food business, especially in the food side of things, all the food that assists in your immunity, which are what we call clean label products, that is, products that have been grown sustainably. Within the agri-food sector, these are the ones that are truly booming. What's more, there are also other, for example, pharmaceutical and biotech sectors that are also on the increase. Let's look a little bit closer at that. Juan Manuel, are we a little risk averse now because of the pandemic? Yes. Yes, many investors are awaiting better times to buy, and some are getting into technology systems that can guarantee what they're doing. I'm talking about blockchain solutions, safe solutions, and I'm referring it to all those businesses that are one step ahead of trends. There are consumers who actually value products that respect the carbon footprint, recycling, and sustainability. This is something that started before the pandemic, but that we're seeing there's an increased interest in. We're seeing as well that investors are looking more and more closely at Europe, the 144 billion euros that are on the table for the next period, and they're looking and replacing due diligence with companies that can, for example, such as the European Innovation Council. They're going through a filter. These are startups between 3 and 6%, where investments are less risky. And this, in addition to these new tools, such as the Escala program, the investor sees that if they're included in the vertical scales, the agri-food one, then the European Commission will give another 50%. There are about 100 million euros coming from investment vehicles that guarantee 25% of investment. So there's a lot of money out there. The message is there's a lot of money, things are liquid, people are wanting to invest, but they're risk averse, as I said before. and they're waiting to make investments that are cheap. That's the situation that we're seeing. People want it cheap. We want it easy and we want it cheap. Garbiñe, you at Deusto University, how do you see it? Are there new ways of approaching investment in Deusto? What we are doing is setting up an entrepreneurship model. What we do is we assist people throughout their lives and provide incentive to their funding and innovative spirit and entrepreneurship spirit, because all entrepreneurs need investment, they need funding. So at the university, there are different projects, different European projects, and where we're bringing together data providers with different sectors and investors. It's a project, a 4-year one in our case, and we're bringing different worlds together. That's what I like to call it, to try to pinpoint solutions to challenges so that investors can invest safely. This is our culture, investment and funding. The most advanced startups have always had the greatest opportunities to get investment round. Is this changing with the pandemic or not? Or is it still the same? For me, this trend will carry on because investors are less risk averse, as we've already said. That's why they're going to invest in startups that already have a past. So it's the follow-on investment rounds. For younger, newer startups, difficult years are ahead. But there are public funds, there are lottery funds as well to help these startups to begin. What do you think a startup can do to make themselves more attractive to investors? Can you tell us a little bit about that? What are you working on? Well, I wish we knew, is the answer to that question. I'm saying that from a startup viewpoint, a startup that is now seeking funding. We're right in the middle of a funding round. As Josu and Garbiñe said, in August we went from being 6 people down to being 2 people at a quarter of a day because we had no funding. We had nothing that we could do. We've done a great deal. We've received 400,000 euros from EIT Food. Thankfully, that's helped us. But as you said, to be more attractive, as you asked in the end, what they ask us are a team, a strong team, and a very clear business model. So you need a team. That means that there are no limitations, so that they're very technical and good managers, but also a business model that allows you to upscale and become attractive to investors. Can you give us a few more hints? I'm sure there are many people out there that are in this situation. You said you'd gone down from 6 to 2. You're trying to get your model to work. What other hints can you give to all the entrepreneurs that are out there looking at us? Because we're here to help those entrepreneurs. I think he's being very modest because the first thing to do is to go to EID. EIT is the first thing you should do to get a big corporation that is in contact with EIT can validate your solution, because what the investor wants are real customer metrics. Who are your customer? What is your customer base? If you look at the whole of the Mediterranean ecosystem, it really, really is to have on your team different kind of people. Because one classic mistake is that all are industrial engineers. No, we don't want that. We want the different people from a multidisciplinary viewpoint and from different countries. When I say different, perhaps I could give you a little bit of advice to anybody that's out there listening. There's a great program called Erasmus Entrepreneurs, which allow you to bring other people who speak other languages on board. I say that because there are all other calls out there, and now you're going to be receiving 400,000 euros. Why don't you go to the European Innovation Council Accelerator in January, where you can opt for 2.5 million euros of subsidies, 75% of which is right there for the taking. And why am I saying that we need to be diverse? Of course, you need to be disruptive at a world level. You need to know who your competitors are. You can say, I'm innovative, but what do you mean in your surroundings? But people are going to look at your team as well. If everybody in your team is from Bilbao, you're not going to be very well received. And this is a tool to try to avoid the best startups going to the US, because here European investors have a huge defect, which is they don't like risk at all. They hate it. Companies such as Dropbox and Skype, who are European in origin, the drama now is that the owners of Skype are now Microsoft, and the taxes that Microsoft pays go to a different place. So that's why the EU is now reacting with these new tools to help startups upscale. There are a series of tools that are interconnected, but we need to start at the beginning. And it's very important what the EU has done. It's a sort of an ISO certification. If somebody validates you and you take part in EIT Food, then you've got like ISO certification. Do you think this diversity is feasible? Because I think for many startups it's not. Following on from what we've just been saying, at the university we are mixing. We're mixing people of different origins, different ages, genders, different studies level, different knowledges. We're getting involved in what's called dual programs with companies. We're also working alongside investors. We're coming together to listen and to do things together. We're doing things together because that's the only way to learn. Cooperation is something that needs to be practiced. Sometimes, as our colleague said, okay, they're all engineers sometimes. If we're all that look like each other, then we're all going to think the same. But if we want to upscale and we want to innovate, we need to all be different. And that's we teach at university. Right when people are in degree courses, what we do is we get people to mix with the unlikes, not the likes, not the people that are like you. We need to learn from that. I can actually add something that even though we invest in more mature companies, but that diversity is very, very important. In fact, we reject some companies because although the team is very good, they're all engineers and they don't know how to develop the business. They don't know how to do the marketing side of things. They don't know how to get their product to market, and that is fundamental. You need a solid technical side of things, but you also need a solid marketing side of things. And then outside Spain, we've seen there are very good companies, but they're not prepared to leave Spain. And if they do leave Spain, they go straight to Latin America. And I think that's maybe because they don't have the right team. Why don't you go to North Europe? Why don't you go to the US? Don't just go to to Latin America because of language proximity. This is something that we always think about, and it's very important in the investment that we do. Companies are good, but maybe sometimes that's what we need, that extra piece. In my opinion, in upcoming years, there will be less money for investments. So maybe one piece of advice is it's time to be patient, perhaps. Create a better team. Concentrate on your brand and all those projects that are behind, but also very important. Patience. When you see that your bank balance is going down, it's difficult to be patient. Like as the example of Oscar. But I think if you can maybe have a smaller team for the upcoming months, that's probably important as well. We're talking a lot about all these millions that have been put on the table by the EU that are going to be handed out, because they haven't been handed out yet. We're still awaiting budgets. They're 12,300 million euros left over from a previous funding period that still haven't been spent, but some requirements need to be met. maybe it's not so much that startups aren't so ambitious, but actually maybe they can't meet these criteria. We'll be talking at ASI, somebody from ASI later. And this is a local person from the Basque country. They can talk to us about funding locally. What you need is an investment mix so that there be a public investment and investment from business angels or venture capitalists that always want their investments to grow. In our case, as our company is dedicated to transform agricultural waste into industrial products, what that helps us is that investment can come from big industrial companies that can give us sales networks, customers, and a whole R&D development that we, despite the fact that we've got several PhD people in our labs, is maybe we're maybe too small. The idea of diversity, we very much keep that in mind. We spoke to a rancher at Feltwood from that the other day. What we're trying to do is what we can. I'll try and explain what I mean. Next month, we're going to have a new CEO who's Argentinian, but he's coming to us from Holland. We also spoke to a funder last week who, although he's from Zaragoza, he spent 5 or 6 years in India as head of the sales department of a multinational. The next person we need to hire is going to have to be in marketing, but we want it to be a millennial. I want it to be a Z generation person, because sometimes, however young we feel we are, we're lacking that millennial spirit. We've also got a wage issue, because a company like us can only pay certain wages. So I need to attract people, and they need to be attracted to us. But I can't necessarily attract the people that I really, really want to attract. And I'm not saying anything as my team, but every person that we get, of course, is the best that we can. But if we want to upscale, we're going to need people from different countries. And I'm very much in favor of this. I studied in the UK. But sometimes if you don't have sufficient money to attract somebody, I mean, Spanish food's very nice, but it's not sufficient to compensate 20,000 euros in salary. I'd like to give you a couple of key pointers. We've just approved a project which is give you an example of who you could work with. The corporate here is global learning. That what they do is they purify water. What's that got to do with you? The EU has passed a project for about €1 million called LIFE, and its proposal is to use water purifying plants, because methane, they produce methane, but there's a structure in which you can take food waste that actually is a problem because of the directive on waste, but actually they can enrich methane production. What has this corporation done? It has an accelerator, a Go Hub for companies, and I think they'd be really thrilled to get into contact with you. Maybe we can get you, because this kind of company already is nationalized. It's in Africa. It's in the Philippines. So maybe the message to startups is you have to be cautious, but you also need to seek alliances, because these big corporations are saying, oh, there's a paradigm shift here. The world is changing, and they also need innovation that comes from small fry. I invite you to use it. And also you've got the Green Deal program, which has just been published with €1 billion, but you can't go mini. You're not going to give you €7.5 million because you're so small, but you need to convince somebody who's big, who has that problem, in which your solution could help them get that investment. You've also got the Fast Track to Innovation program, which you go hand in hand with a larger company. The European Commission can give you €2.5 million to upscale innovations, products and services. I think you've got a very bright future ahead of you. Do you have anything to add, Garbini? Yes. We say to youngsters, to millennials, people that come to the university, how important it is to cooperate, to come together. And we at universities can maybe accompany you and become relation hubs, because this paradigm shift which is changing the way we relate. The world is just there. It's out there. And we're seeing increasingly that the projects that we work with in companies, there's a hotbed of opportunities out there. So let's make use of them. I'm hoping many youngsters are watching this to see that this is real, because if you come to university, you can see this, see that there are real examples of that, and practice what you're trying to do. It's very important, everything that we're saying here. What I'm seeing with big companies these days is that what they want to do is to invest in new things, startups that are going to change the world. And because of the economic crisis, which we are already in the middle of, they also want to maintain the day-to-day of their business. That's why a large part of the funds from this year are not for startups, but for corporate venture funds. So it's a challenge. Yes, there's a challenge out there if we want to get big corporates on board, because they are really, really concentrating now on their day-to-day survival. Do you have anything to add? From the viewpoint of corporates, because we invest in these big corporates, that the months of March, April and May were just trying to keep your head above water. It was very, very intense. We also work very intensely with these the companies that we have in our portfolio to help them. From June to July, they started to look towards more interesting things. There are some companies who are beginning to look towards innovation. The good thing about the agri-food business is that innovation hasn't stopped as much as in other businesses. It's carried on being active, and we've been able to see interesting companies that are bubbling up in the market. And there you can see that there's kind of an interesting gap now, because there are very good companies that actually haven't suffered under the crisis. They've improved the situation in the crisis. For example, food, healthy food. For example, all those companies that replace chemical ingredients with natural plant extracts, sustainable agriculture, for example, as well. Minimizing the use of chemical-based pesticides, concentrating more on pesticides that are biological-based. These companies haven't suffered so much, and in fact, investors are prepared to pay more for these kinds of companies. Can you give us an example of that? Is that a problem? This is something that we've seen for several years. We have companies that's in our portfolio that sell products in the north of Europe, in Denmark, in the UK, etc. And for several years now, there's been the eliminating plastic war going on. And if you can't eliminate plastic, at least replace it with something that's biodegradable. Now, the way we see it, we're still seeing, although in our venture capital company, we've gone beyond the idea of bio-packaging. Could you talk about those areas now that are receiving less investment, or where you wouldn't invest, where maybe you've concentrated your investments to date, but you wouldn't go there anymore? Actually, let's change that message. Let's try to be more positive. The areas related to the environment, food safety, climate change, quality, health. When people talk about health, what they understand is the importance of investing in healthy food. Belgians are saying to us, for example, we don't want to import any more food from South Africa or fruit from Latin America. What we want is fruit from Europe, but it needs to be certified, it needs to be traceable, using blockchain. Juan Manuel, okay, that's great, but I'm sure that the economic crisis is not going to do away with these values and just, make us forget about these eco values, the SDGs. I mean, this all looks good on paper, but can it be sustained during a time of crisis? Yes, it can be, because COVID-19 obviously originates from climate change. This is another risk, actually, that's out there, quite an obvious one. In fact, climate change may give rise to other kinds of virus. We need to become used to living in an environment in which hygiene, security, and cleanliness are very important. And sectors such as the health sector, such as the ones that were explained earlier about the probiotics that protect my gut health, my health. It's a time for introspection. It's a time for sitting back and thinking. People are beginning to think now of projects that are common sense projects. How can we replace the role of venture capital? I actually would encourage startups to look at the public sector that have got tools for funding, because they're going to have more funding. There's this 140 billion euro fund out there. But what I need to highlight is find yourself a big partner, maybe a company like Ferrovial, but a company that can help you validate your model. And that will facilitate what you do, because there are pension funds that aren't being profitable, or sovereign funds with internal regulations which prevent them from investing in risky business. That's why the Commission has started these vertical tools, and the Commission is going to top up the investment, give you equal investment, and also they're going to give you 25% more money. So we're seeing now, we're waiting for the first approval of the first pilot, but for these verticals, there's going to be cheap money and long-term money. Finally, to close this round, I also wanted to be positive and say the startup that we have in the Basque University ecosystem, in our incubators or hot houses, are following this crisis to see how their business model works. And they're evolving very, very quickly. They're putting into practice these new tools using agile methodologies. This is an opportunity for them. In March, when we saw what was coming, we saw what was just around the corner, we didn't think they were going to react so rapidly, but they are. They are out there, and we're hoping that this will help them grow and evolve rapidly, upscale. A final few words is what you want from me. Well, in our case, we encourage investors to not be so safe when they look at their investments. They can get good returns if they take a little bit of risky, not just so much for felt wood, but in the end, There are good projects that could help many people in the agri-food sector, and that sometimes don't progress because of a lack of funding. What we need is for the ecosystem to help entrepreneurs take an idea, which is usually a good idea, and then make that idea into real projects that they shouldn't be left behind. Whenever you validate, you need funding to validate the next step. Let's hope that all these good wishes go ahead. We've heard from startups, we've heard from EIT Food. EIT Food are going to stay with us. Joseph, we're going to ask her to stay with you just to say a few things about the different investment opportunities that are out there for EIT Food. But we'd like to say thank you to all of you that have been in this roundtable. Good luck for the immediate future and for the present. We're living through interesting times. Thanks to all of you. Thanks to you for sending us your questions. Carry on sharing what we're doing here using the hashtag #FoodFunandFan. All the things that you feel are interesting to promote this event, which would encourages networking between different stakeholders in the agri-food sector, and in short, in this sector that affects all the people in society. So we're carrying on. We're going to change screen to move on to the next section, but we've got Joseph still with us here.
About fundraising opportunities for startup investment and development in Europe, and also more precisely in the Basque Country, the Spanish region from where we are broadcasting this event, focusing in successful cases. But first of all, Joseph Gridley, EIT Food Business Creation Manager, will give us the European perspective of the opportunities that already exist for startups, and we will get to know some successful startups of the agri-food sector with Elizabeth Gorospe Gorostiza, head of the entrepreneurship and training area at ASI Fundazioa. She will tell us about the programs they offer in the Basque Country to support entrepreneurs of the agri-food sector. Kaixo, Elizabeth, ¿nos oyes bien? Bueno, esperemos que sí. En cualquier caso, le damos sí. Muchas gracias. Estaba haciendo mi primer test.
Elizabeth, I was
Qué pena que no puedas estar aquí, pero bueno, es lo que tiene esta nueva normalidad. I give you the floor, Joseph. Somos todo oídos. Thank you.
Thank you. Aquí.
Y por supuesto, mientras arranca la presentación de Joseph, os invitamos a ir realizando vuestras preguntas a las personas que participan en este evento para la transformación entre todos los agentes del sector agroalimentario de este sector. Joseph is ready, so now we are looking forward to hearing your presentation about fundraising opportunities in Europe.
Thank you very much. Well, good morning, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here with you all, virtually, as it may be. Welcome to all of the startups who are dialing in from wherever that might be. My name is Joseph Gridley, and I'm responsible for all of the programs that we have with startups here in the southern of Europe, so Portugal, Spain, Italy, Greece, Turkey, and Israel. And I wanted to tell you a little bit today about how we work with startups, the offers of funding and other support that we have for you, and how we can help you come together to build a better food system. So our goal really is to provide you, a startup, an entrepreneur, with all the skills that you need to develop your business and to make a real impact in the food system, because we know that the challenges we're facing in our food system are huge. Whether it be childhood obesity, climate change, the fact that we're running out of resources, some say there are only 60 harvests left on the farms. The problems we face are huge. And the big businesses, they're changing, but they're not changing fast enough. And we're huge believers that the startups are the ones that can come along and give that energy, that push to build a better food system. So we work with entrepreneurs and they come to us for a whole variety of reasons. Number one is the quality of our network. We have 80 partners from the biggest businesses out there, John Deere, Nestle, PepsiCo, through to the best universities, University of Madrid, of Cambridge, through to organizations that work in research like ASTI, NACO here in the Basque Country to help your startup to develop. We offer funding, we offer training, we offer world-class mentoring opportunities with the CEOs of great companies. And so there's so many opportunities for you as an entrepreneur to kind of get involved and to benefit from what we offer. So you can get a sense of the scale. We're a big EU-funded organization, and so we work with literally thousands of startups. We're spread all over Europe. I focus on the Southern European bit, but we're in the Nordics, we're in Eastern Europe, Central Europe, and Southern Europe. And these are some of the numbers that we're seeing. We've worked with about 2,000 startups so far. We've invested or helped these startups go on to raise about 91 million euros. And we've given ourselves just shy of a million euros in helping those startups to develop. So what we like to say is we're really with you throughout your entire journey as an entrepreneur, from the generation of your idea right through to raising a Series B round. So long-term, 5-6 years, we can support you with different programs. So whether you're interested in becoming an entrepreneur or an entrepreneur like Oscar that we just heard from who's raising money, we can definitely help you. At the launch side of our programs, we've got two main initiatives. One of them is called Seedbed, and this is for people who've got a technology that can really transform the food system, but no one knows if someone's going to buy it, what the market opportunity is, what the business model might be. And so we give entrepreneurs the money, the skills, and the contacts to go out and validate that technology in the market through talking with over 100 customers. Really, really powerful program. The other one is Challenge Labs. These are for people that want to get into the world of entrepreneurship, to find a co-founder, to spark a new idea to change the food system. And these will be running in online this year in Italy and Spain. Just as an example of someone that went through the Seedbed program, and you'll get to hear from these guys later too, Crover. It's an Italian guy called Lorenzo who lives in Scotland. He joined our Seedbed program last year. And what Crover do is they have built the world's first robot that can swim through grains. And this is really important because about 20% of the food waste that we see in the world is coming through loss in grain silos. And so their device can detect it early and stop this food waste happening. They had the technology, they had the patent, they didn't know if they were going to have the market. And so with us, they were able to talk with companies like Barilla, Grupo AENE, loads and loads of huge grain companies. And now they know how they should sell it, for how much. They've got their first letters of interest for companies. And so it's been a really powerful experience for them. In the second stage, we've got our Accelerate programs. And here, again, we've got two offers for you, the entrepreneurs. The first is our Food Accelerator Network. And this is a 4-month program that's like a mini MBA, offers funding, access to R&D facilities, world-class mentoring, and I'll show you a video in a second about how good this is. The second program is called Test Farms, and this is where we take high potential agricultural startups that are proving we can build a more sustainable food system, and we link them with farmers so that you can validate your solution in a real life field. So it's not just an idea you've got in your head or in the lab, it's out there on the field. As I said, I want to show you a quick video so you can see how the Food Accelerator Network looks in Bilbao. Video, please.
This Accelerator is like a mini MBA for business.
The Accelerator created amazing networking events and opportunities to meet investors.
We meet a lot of professionals who gave his vision in your business.
The best thing for me was the training. They helped me grow a lot as an entrepreneur.
So there's a whole pool of experts who are really eager to help, and they put up their networks and their experience.
The Accelerator program is intense, of high quality and fun.
Intensive, connecting and inspiring.
The Accelerator program has given me a greater vision of how the world works and a bigger picture of the food sector.
Thanks to the IT Food Accelerator, our business model has been refined and has allowed us to enter new markets and increase our sales.
I believe I'm now ready to deploy my business.
We now have a clear roadmap on what to do and where to go.
So that's just a little flavor of what the Food Accelerator network looks like in Bilbao, and any entrepreneurs that are out there that are looking for a world-class experience to take their startup to the next level, I recommend that you get in touch. And just briefly, this is an example of one of the teams who went through the program last year. They get all of that training, they got world-class mentoring, and then at the end, they even went on to receive an investment from EIT Food of 100,000 euros, which has helped their company to grow in Portugal and then internationalize and reach new markets. Finally, our scale programs. This is where we're taking really established companies, 10 or more employees, we've got sales of 500,000, and you're looking to internationalize to grow. We give you the chance to become a member of the Rising Food Stars. This is an association of Europe's best agri-food startups that are really making an impact, making our food system healthier and more sustainable. Once you're a member of Rising Food Stars, you can do programs with some of our big corporates, some of our universities, and receive funding from us to scale your impact and to have some of those big partnerships. All of our programs, they open for applications in January of 2020, so I encourage you to get in touch. My email address is here. If you're interested, give me an email. Always happy to talk through the opportunities that are available for your startup, and this is really just a taster. So thanks very much for listening, and hope to see your applications soon.
Mm-hmm. Yes, for sure. I'm sure that you will get some applications really soon. Thank you very much, Joseph Grively, for sharing all the different opportunities for investment that the startups have in IT food. But I invite you to stay here with us because now it's time to listen to Elizabeth Gorospe, but afterwards there might be some questions from the audience. So thank you very much for staying with us. Elizabeth, de ASI Fundazioa. Te damos la bienvenida, ahora sí, ya te vemos. Bueno, tú vas a compartir ¿de qué forma ayudáis en este clúster vasco de la alimentación a las startups del sector? Y también nos vas a presentar algunos casos de éxito. Adelante.
To the success of startups in the Basque country, and you're going to also share some success cases. Well, Egunon, that is good morning in Basque. I am sorry I could not go to the set. I am talking from my home, so thank you very much for granting me this occasion to participate in this forum. So I'd like to share what we can offer to entrepreneurs and people with a startup in the Basque country. Thank you to all of you following us on the streaming. So I'd like to share the ecosystem we have to support entrepreneurship and also to underline what for us means food supply channel. For us, the supply chain is each and every part, since the production of raw materials, that is the farming, the agriculture production, even sustainable fisheries. So the processing, the transformation of these raw materials from an artisanal point of view when this happens sometimes, and also from an industrial point of view. And then we have the short circuit without intermediaries and the long circuit with some intermediaries, and that is for the large distribution companies. So this is for raw materials that are processed or not processed, that then turns into gastronomy. And we could be talking about experience gastronomy, but also gastronomy for big collectivities. And also we have to play a role to make people aware that we are all consumers of these products. So, well, we are all talking about feeding ourselves, and that is very important. I'd like to share a presentation with you, and you can find all this information in a platform called On Ekin. That means enjoy your lunch or your food in Basque. So here we see the different parts of the supply chain, and we're talking from about farmers, fishers, and there you have updated information about all of these partners. On the next slide, we'd like to share with you what the support ecosystem we have for you. So this Onekin portal or platform works with companies that depend on the food and fishing companies from the Basque government. So we talk with the Basque Culinary Center and with a research center like ASI. So we're supporting entrepreneurship and the new business initiatives in all their stages, from the qualification stage of entrepreneurs, that is the training and skilling in all skills necessary that are necessary to start a business, and then all the way to the stage where you are sort of maturing that idea and then starting the company. So this goes for this whole life cycle of the starting of a company, and we are talking about food supply chain and its value from production, processing, and then even getting to the degree of what we call gastronomy. And on my slides, I'll share some of the initiatives we have. I don't know whether you can already see my slides, but I'm going to mention some of these initiatives. So first we have Mugagabe. Mugagabe, it's an initiative that we started in 2019 to support innovation, startups innovation. This is as if we give you some innovation bonds. We started with dairy products and vegetables and fish. And these turned into Mugagabe Ardoa. Given the COVID crisis in the field of drinks, the Basque Country drinking sector was hugely affected because consumption was really put into a halt during the lockdown and the subsequent months. So we are supporting the world of wine and wineries. So we have these innovation bonds that we provide for every kind of innovation, both in relation to products or processes. Then we have this other initiative. This is Ekinchaye. In Ekinchaye, we support companies or startups that are already up and running, but only for less than 8 years. And we're going to fund consulting companies provided by third parties, and we will supply 50% of the funding up to a maximum of 1,000 euros of feasibility, viability studies. And then also we will support the process to obtain a patent. This was started in 2019, this initiative. Another initiative I'd like to share with you, it is the innovation in the field of cooperation, and this, I think, was previously mentioned by another speaker. In this particular case, we foster the innovation in cooperation with other partners of the supply chain. So one of the partners should be in the field of production, and all other partners could be agents from the territory or from the supply chain value of the value supply chain. So here, this is co-funded by European funds, as you see on the right of the screen. So here we will support any kind of project working in the field of innovation. Another initiative that we'd like to share with you is that here in Basque Country, many of the companies that are already running have an issue now with a new generation shift. Sometimes these are family-run companies. We have an initiative that is called Open Generational Shift, and we make possible for a new generation to come in, even if they do not come from the same family. So when you have companies in the field of agriculture, fishing, or farming, sometimes if you do not longer have people in your family that would like to take upon the business, then we will find new partners, new players to work in these companies. Sometimes they might have the right infrastructure, so for 6 months they get to know each other. We create an atmosphere of trust so they can transfer the company. So both people live in the company and the newcomers into the company, they enjoy the work on the support of different experts that might help them handle the company or hand the company over to these new partners. So sometimes we're talking about legal experts, financial experts, and during these 6 months, they will also get 600 euros of subsidy that should be shared by both parties. And then also when talking about the maritime sector and the fisheries, here we call it Accelerator. This is another initiative, and we've got some students in the maritime and fishing schools in the Basque Country, but they do not know what the fishing activity is about. And with this initiative for 2 months, during their holidays, they can enroll on a fishing boat in the Basque Country, because often we realize that these fishing boats, they need to renew labor. So this is a shared need of both people who are studying about fishing and also the ones running the fishing boat. So they get a first-hand knowledge. So ship owners, they get to know these new students and they might hire them. Another initiative is because many people that would like to start a company, they have theoretical and practical knowledge of the activity they want to develop, but sometimes the practical aspect is not very well known. So we provide them the occasion to, for 6 months, to work in a company in the Basque Country on that sector that is a state-of-the-art company for 6 months, and they can then learn what the sector is like, and they might also get data about how to build their own business on that sector. So these are what we call these grants for 6 months with 700 euros and with a minimum 25 hours in the company and maximum full days in the company. Then we have other programs that will help entrepreneurs mature their business idea and also to start the business. So here we do some mentoring. We have Gastanek and Geroa, 2 programs. Gastanek means in Basque language, youth, and nek means agriculture, so this is like rejuvenating agriculture. Encourages projects related to farming, to wood growing, or to fishing. And the other initiative are aimed at processing, trading of projects that should take place on the littoral, on the coast. So we analyze the feasibility of a company, of the business plan they have. We help them start the company and then consolidate the company. We've got to underline that the public institutions, for this first level, together with the Basque government, the Ministry for Fishing and Agriculture, you can also enjoy different subsidies, and you can have access to them through the Onekin initiative for entrepreneurs and startups. So we've got ideas to dynamize and to encourage investment on processes like the Layatu program, or to support entrepreneurship and investments on rural areas. So I think this is a very good occasion for you. Please visit this platform called Onekin, so you see the different possibilities you have here in the Basque country. I think there are many, many possibilities. I do encourage you to visit Onekin or contact us, give us a call, share your project with us, and we'll see how we can sort of walk with you on this trip to start a company. Then we also have education. We have different initiatives to work on the key skills identified for certain businesses. So how to relate to your suppliers, how to create a network with other suppliers or companies, about economic skills or technical skills that you might require.
Bueno, hemos dejado de oír a Elizabeth. Un momento, Elizabeth. Estamos teniendo problemas para escucharte, incluso para verte. No sé si se pueden solucionar. Bueno, mira, tenemos una pregunta. Agradecemos a las personas que estáis participando online en este evento por enviarnos vuestras preguntas. Hay un participante o una participante anónima que dice que si hay una startup que no es de España o no es ni siquiera dentro de España, del País Vasco, ¿qué apoyo puede recibir desde
operating in the Basque country or even in Spain? Could they get some support to come and settle in the Basque country? Could you consider this? Did you consider this? If I heard you properly, somebody wants to start an activity in the Basque country, but they are not from the Basque country. Is there a way for them to do so? Well, as long as they want to start a company in the Basque country, the Basque Ministry for this sector and we, ASI, we will support them. I think, please, I would like you to share my email, so please contact me, she's saying. So now, thank you very much, Elizabeth, for sharing those words with us. And now she moves to English.
Being held during this current environment, are they still held in Bilbao?
Yeah, it's a great question and one that's been hard for us this year. With the COVID-19, we've had to move everything online, but we've spent a lot of time developing the digital tools, all of this, so that startups can get the same level of learning through their Zoom accounts. We use platforms like the Union, so they get a really full experience. And we found actually the quality of teaching has increased online. The sad thing is that we missed the opportunity to share a chuletón together in Bilbao and some of the more social aspects.
Yeah, it's a real pity, but hopefully next year. And of course, the most important thing is that we can communicate and do some good networking online through the conversation starter. So we invite you to register on this app. Thank you very much to you, Joseph, for sharing with us all your knowledge and all the funding opportunities, fundraising opportunities in EIT Food. And thanks to you too for your questions and comments at the question box. Now it's time for a coffee break until 11 o'clock, 10 minutes of a good coffee break to reflect on everything we've heard in the first part of this second EIT Food Fun and Fan event. See you in 10 minutes. Thank you for being with us at this second Food Fun and Fan, the annual event for startups that will give you the tips and tricks to become the best agri-food startup and will empower you to change the world for better, more sustainable, healthier, and trusted. In the first part, we mostly spoke about investment and fundraising opportunities during the current pandemic, and now we're going to focus on women entrepreneurs, their specific challenges and ideas to empower them. Of course, your questions will be very welcome. You know that you have to register on the conversation starter, and please send us your questions and comments at the question box. And now we are going to start this roundtable about the challenges and all the opportunities that have women entrepreneurs in this new normal after or during the pandemic of COVID-19. En un instante vamos a arrancar la mesa redonda sobre las problemáticas y las oportunidades que tienen en estos momentos las mujeres emprendedoras del sector agroalimentario. Esperamos poner el acento en fórmulas
for women in the food sector. This may well be difficult for many of you men out there listening to us because it's very difficult to transform the food and farming sector towards a more sustainable, trustworthy and a healthy sector. If we're going to do that, we need there to be collaborating between men and women. And
EIT Food Project Manager, thank you for being with us. Isabel Iturbe, Vice President at AED, the Association of Women Entrepreneurs of the Basque Province of Vizcaya in Spain, from where we are broadcasting. Thank you for being with us. Irache Perales, co-founder and CEO at Sonicat Systems. Welcome, Irache. Anaís Iglesias, Head of Entrepreneurship and Lecturer at the Basque Culinary Center. Welcome and thank you for being with us. And Carolina Nájar, partner at Baiba the Kitchen. Before we start speaking and with this debate, I'd like to ask Lara to take the picture of the current situation of women entrepreneurs of the agri-food sector. So I give you the floor, Lara. Perdona, es que claro, entre inglés y español me he liado. Este debate es en castellano, o sea que...
Sorry, I couldn't remember which language to use. Let's have our debate in Spanish now. Off you go. Sorry, we're just awaiting the sound in the booth here. We've promised that it will get it soon. For the moment, we can't hear you. Just hang on a minute, Lara. It seems there's problems with Lara's mic, but we'll be back with you once they've been solved. I'm sure she'll be able to. If not Lara, maybe we can ask Isabel Iturbe to explain the situation for women. Do I need to introduce myself? Yes, maybe, but make it briefly. No, I'll get directly to the point. In our association, we call our association like an observatory. It's an observatory. And initially, I was asked, what sort of assistance do entrepreneurial women need? But to know that, we need to know what the situation is. Who are we here? We know that 33% of people employed, of the active population in this country, are people that are self-employed. These people who are self-employed, of them, a third of them are women. You're going to hear this proportion, the third, all the time, because it comes from a study that we carried out, a survey. So it's 1 out of every 3. That's to give you an idea of who's who. We were also interested in finding out how many companies or how many women were employers and how many were just professional self-employed people. So it's between it's around a third, once again, in comparison to the general population, i.e. men. Men are always double the activities that we do. Maybe that's logical because men for many years have had the financial power at the tips of their fingers, so it's kind of logical there's only a third of us women. It was only 45 years ago that the 14/75 Act was passed, which allowed women to open a bank account. Only 45 years have gone by since women are allowed to have their own bank account. It's not so much it's a problem, but it's kind of logical. Male colleagues have spent many years holding the purse strings. And are women more vulnerable in this crisis? Are women more vulnerable? Well, we're probably less vulnerable because our structures, the structures that we have, are smaller. What's happened in this crisis is that we're able to react more quickly because our structures are smaller. That's a good piece of news. Yes, that's our conclusion. But actually, what the problem we have is increasing our structure size, and the difference between us and men is incredibly large. Women are being entrepreneurs in sectors where they shouldn't really be entrepreneurs. 49% of women in business are in the sales business, as opposed to 17%. So these are far more weak, such as trade, shops, and hotel and catering. This can be changed, but of course that requires a different kind of way of seeing things. Only 30% of companies headed up by women receive external funding. The rest use their own funds. So if we want to grow, if we want to upscale, unless we look up, we're always going to stay in the weaker sectors, those sectors which are economically less strong, as it were. Of course, there probably are leadership programs and financial assistance. So how can we get all that across to women in business? Carolina. There aren't many. There isn't much financial assistance exclusively for women. Maybe we should look at things sector-wise. As for entrepreneurship in the food sector, there are many European programs, and initially the calls that are out there provide sufficient assistance to start as a startup. The problem comes when companies need to upscale and need sufficient funding. and it's where the team is 80 or 100% female that it's more difficult to access these funds for different reasons, different specifics. In the food sector, there's very little women present. The same goes for logistics, some sciences, some commercial sectors. And there are opportunities for women to have an entrepreneurial spirit. There are more women involved in sales in small shops than in the other kinds of fields. So how can we take this leap forward? If there are so many women in a sector that's becoming smaller and smaller, how can they change sector? How can they be assisted? Well, the first thing you need to do is pinpoint the problem. We've realized that in Europe, we've pinpointed the problem via public funding to promote women. There's a program now called Accelerator for technological companies in the agri-food sector, in which 25% of funds have to be given by companies led by women. That's part of the regulations to access funds. So maybe that's some kind of a micro-feminism, but these funds are specifically for women. Sometimes it's necessary. It's positive discrimination, perhaps you could call it that. But nationally, nobody seems to have realized this. Nationally, that is in a Spanish level, there are no subsidies to encourage there to be more female entrepreneurs. Maybe that would be the first step to identify the problems so that all ERDF funds and others. In the private sector, it's different. There are networks of business angels and private equity which just concentrate on offering of funding to women. So they're seeing that in Europe, they're seeing that in the private sector. Maybe what we need to do here is to change our mentality in Spain and promote this. Following from what has just been said, I'd like to just go back in time and understand that tutorship or mentoring starts before that. When you mentor somebody, you have to mentor them from the technical side of things, the scientific technical side of things. You also need to mentor all the contact lists, access capital. But to be an entrepreneur, you have to want to be an entrepreneur, but feel that you're able to. And that's where I think what you need is for women that have got brilliant ideas is to highlight those mentoring programs, training programs to detect where you've got loopholes. Of course, we can't generalize things. These programs need to be personalized, but understand that the entrepreneurship process where the profile is very good. It's not just having a good idea, it's being a good entrepreneur with the emotional attitude and empowerment skills necessary to get involved in upskilling process, investment process. And I think you'll agree with me. We're talking about playing in a big league. We need to be more self-aware, we need to be more empowered to be able to face up to this. And I think if we take a step forward and if we realize that these programs need to be mentored, they need to be empowered. I know we use this word empowerment so much, but you have to organize your head to give you with tools to be able to show off, as it were, so that we get to the front row and then take step forwards. So we need to get into the front row. In what sectors are there opportunities? We've, in the first part of this event, looked at some of that, but maybe you can say us a little bit more. It's great to hear my colleagues because, as Anna said just a few minutes ago, attitude and business philosophy has to be very much linked to an entrepreneurial person, because it's a field which requires a great deal of work, a great deal of research, and many contexts. So it's this attitude, this entrepreneurial spirit that is fundamental, whatever sector you're in, even if you're whatever gender. As for women, it is true that there have traditionally been barriers. I support what Isabel said earlier, which is that we're always being told about the additional barriers that are out there for us women. Sometimes it's difficult to pinpoint the opportunities where we really do stand up, because quite clearly we have to take the domestic burden on our shoulders far more frequently. It's far less fairly distributed. It's usually women and mother that have had to get involved in domestic tasks. But I haven't found any statistical data, updated statistical data, that prove that female entrepreneurship has been affected by the pandemic beyond the family situation. That means that businesses have been able to adapt, and I think this is an opportunity. Startups that have been able to adapt their business model and truly see the bigger picture and adapt their products are the ones that have been most successful on the market commercially. If you add to that the possibility of having a business idea that has a mission, for example, social enterprises have a mission, have a vision, have a long-term mission and vision. These are the ones that, in this case, are better weathering the coronavirus storm. And that's probably because of the trust that they've managed to achieve, the relationship that they have with their stakeholders, that makes it easier for them to achieve the aims that they set out. So in sectors, the issues such as sustainability is being promoted, and especially in the agri-food business, it's key. We all know that it's key, and that's become very clear over last months. And there's far more showcasing of people, not just who work at a supermarket, but also in the primary sector. Food producers are having their golden moment, because sustainability is being given a great support. European health and European sustainability and putting the brakes on climate change is something that we're all attempting here in the EU. And at a time of crisis, especially a time of a health crisis, we start rethinking about why we've invented our business, how we can improve. We take a fresh look at things, and this is good, but sometimes we actually get into a business without wanting to. You've seen that in your studies. There are many women who don't want to be entrepreneurs, but are forced to become entrepreneurs. Yes, entrepreneurs out of need to be able to reconcile the work-life balance. This is something that you see a lot in women, and yes, there are some people that are purely vocational entrepreneurs, but other times what women want is a business to be able to achieve a work-life balance, and they end up having a business in smaller businesses that risk less, that are more domestic in the pandemic. With our members, we monitored this, and it's true, and I repeat this, it's important. The size of companies that women, 50% of women's companies have had to reinvent themselves or seek different alternatives. Why? Because a company with many employees, it's far more difficult for them to reinvent it. But a consultancy or a small shop or business, you can pack up things and take your business somewhere else. So are these patterns being repeated? These are highly skilled women who've been to university, who don't become entrepreneurs because they have to look after their families. Is that the main barrier? Yes. Motherhood is a problem for women because things change. It's a situation. It's not a problem. It's a situation because really, if you set up a business to be more flexible, but you're not changed mentality, there's something else that cropped up in the studies that we came up, which is that 80% of business men are married as opposed to 60% of women. There are a higher number of single women and divorcees amongst female entrepreneurs than against male entrepreneurs. I'd like to talk about the characteristics that you need to have an entrepreneurial spirit and how they're better valued amongst men rather than women. I don't think we're a country in Spain that's very entrepreneurial if you compare us with other countries where the industrial fabric is based on entrepreneurs, whereas in Spain it's not. If you look at food, for example, which is what we're concentrating on here, the presence of female entrepreneurs nationally is very low, but also amongst men it's low. There are not many ideas in this sector. And there are some that are very much product-based, which are not basically the ones that can support a long-term business in the long term. There are some that make mistakes right from the beginning. But when we say how some disruptive ideas that perhaps with the appropriate funds could actually develop a business, and if the team is only women, the problem is actually there's a lack of work-life balance. There's too much family burden. It's still there, and that's when these business women with fantastic ideas cannot spend the time at the business they want to. And that's because in society today, there's still this inequality. You've already given us the figures of that. It's a reality. It just doesn't happen in other countries. You don't see that in Scandinavian countries. You don't see that in some areas of the US nor in Israel. It's a social issue. It's related to our society. But is there any way of incentivizing that? In the case of entrepreneurship, it's what she said. There is no entrepreneurial spirit amongst women or men. The truth is the self-employed couldn't stop paying their Social Security payments, and they've had to carry on paying their social security payments throughout all this time. There have been furloughs for people that are employed, but the self-employed have had to carry on paying their social security payments. So assisting people to be entrepreneurs when we're not even aware of the fact that the policies, tax breaks or funding policies are positive to get through the situation that we can get through. There are many women who have just started a business and they've had to go home. They've been in lockdown with a new business. They're having to work from home with the children there, with the husband who's normally, as he earns more, has the right to work because they earn more, and it's women that are left home, and with the children. And if you're trying to be an entrepreneur with a domestic burden, you have to carry on paying your social security benefits. It's really, really difficult. I think the first thing we need to do is stop being negationist and denying. People say to me, well, there is no male chauvinism in Spain. I'm an engineer, and I think I've always had the same possibilities as my colleagues, but actually, quite clearly, the framework isn't the same for men and women. So we need to see that, accept it, stop denying it, and then seek policies to try to help people in these vulnerable situations. I fully agree. I think that in this case, we've actually got this male chauvinist society in our DNA. And what's more, I'm lucky enough in that I can see the whole process. It's like a funnel. I work with women who are very creative, who are great in their degree. Of course, I help them. I try to get out there, and then I monitor them in the whole of the process. But this funnel gets narrower and narrower, and it's not a lack of ability, because I can see young women at the ages of 20, 22 who have the idea of putting their ideas into practice. It happens. But what happens with this funnel? I think the thing is that we in the academic world can do things, can help people prepare an entrepreneurial profile, but from then to reality, things start happening. And that's where we need mechanism to try to get this funnel not to get so narrow, not wait until we get to a stage in which we've got a minimally viable product. Maybe right from the outset, we need to start designing policies that accompany these women, because they are the talent of the future. So there are many subsidies out there, but they are activated a little bit too late for me. Maybe they should be activated at an earlier age, when these women in the 20s, early 20s, and they don't have family responsibilities. In general, this is all delayed. But let's take this as something positive and an opportunity. Work then, because then make the bigger steps, and they can maintain things, because I've seen that there are ideas and there are ways of doing, but we're losing something. There's some kind of a leakage where we're losing women. There's a program here at Deusto University called Inspire. And they work with young girls at the age of 7 or 8, to try to encourage them right from an early age how important STEM degrees are, or STEM careers are. It's too late when you're 24 to suddenly realize that you want to become an entrepreneur. You want to move away from the domestic side of things. One of my colleagues, Erk, is there. And there was something that I realized, that a girl at the age of 7 already thinks that they're not able to be good at maths as their male counterparts, even at the age of 7. When we talk about education, I think things are changing, to be honest. My daughter is studying maths, and I think she's getting lots of information to promote science amongst women. But if we return now to entrepreneurship, I think we still are a country where it's really, really expensive to open a company. If you want to access credit from the bank, you need a 3-year track history. There are some things that are just basic if you want to have a business, whether you're a man or women. If you add to that some social issues, these are things that need to change. I'm very optimistic. I find increasingly more women in the research field, in scientific fields. I'm beginning to find many women at management level with great business ideas as well. But the problem is, as Anna said, there's just one time when women decide to have a family, and that's when things just skew. Maybe we need government policies to support these moments. I agree with what Anna said. I also agree with all my colleagues. And fact that EIT Food used a piece of information to create this a program that I'm in charge of for Spain, Portugal, Turkey. Well, it's in 5 countries, sorry. This is the first year, and it's to empower, using this word, empowering women in agri-food. And it's to encourage business ideas from women that have got an idea in the back of their head, and they're good ideas, and some of them may have a prototype, and yet they miss a network. It's very, very important to work in a network because you can have the support of your partner or your family, but actually that doesn't mean that those people are going to give you all the different viewpoints that you need for your plan. Many people say, oh yeah, I've got my family support, but you need to get outside your comfort zone and listen maybe to criticisms, people that do things very differently to you, and get external support. In EIT Food, when we saw the figures of women that finished the masters and the courses that we offer, over 70% of them were women. And it's like what you just said. But then what happens to them when they move on to these entrepreneurship programs or accelerator programs? There's only 10% of women there. It's the same thing. I just said there's kind of a gap there. There's a leak there. And these women are very highly skilled. They're very interested in education. They've got great ideas. They're very creative. But once they need a viable business idea and they need to face up to all of this, then all of a sudden entrepreneurship drops. For me, this is something very new. It's a difficult issue, and I think that's where we need to concentrate our attention, as all my colleagues have said. Is it role repetition, or is it that you need more technological to concentrate on technology? No, the handicap's the same. In the end, we accept a domestic role. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you need to be prepared to sacrifice a lot. If there were 3 words to describe what being an entrepreneur means, the first would be sacrifice with a capital S. Then you get the good things happening, but initially you need to sacrifice your personal life. You need to put a lot of time and energy to launch your business idea. Then when you start earning money, it's a different kettle of fish. But maybe women are less prepared to prioritize, or we're not prepared to sacrifice our personal lives and a work-life balance to launch our business model and be successful. Maybe that's the role that's missing. Men are more capable of prioritizing their professional lives over the domestic life. It's so sad. 40 years have gone by and we're still with this subject. Still the same old subject. We still come back to the same old subject. What actually we need is an accelerator for brainwashing, for cultural change, and to change women. But it's a cultural issue. It's an educational issue. It's a pattern that's repeated time and time. Sometimes it's a cultural issue. It's not a question of male chauvinism always, although, yes, there is that as well, or micro chauvinisms out there. but evolutionally or culturally or because of our ascendants, we don't like to take risks. You need to be prepared to take risks. Accept that risk to be successful. But it would seem, in general, and of course I can't generalize, we tend to use self-funding. We don't ask for funding, and as we ask for less funding, we get less funding. In fact, 10% or less of investments go to women in preference to men. When you talk about business angels groups, equity funds, it's quite normal to see that men receive more funding than women. And sometimes it's a question of trust, of being out there, or men who are have greater self-confidence. We feel more insecure. We're the queens of education. We've got masters, we've got PhDs. How many more do you want? I would say maybe this is the responsibility of those women who could help others. I mean, you form a part of the whole thing. If there's a lack of network, or if there's a lack of helping women overcoming this fear, I think there are associations. I think there are fora of these kinds. I think what we need to be is more proactive in supporting each other. When we talk about women entrepreneurs, there's a lack of support from women. There are some experiences of women that are brilliant in this country, and specifically in Bilbao. Maybe we should help them and get them to help others in an organized fashion. I'm very critical of there being 200 stakeholders doing the same thing. We need to bring everything together so that all of those of us that are in a specific sector support each other to join forces and do what we want to do, because otherwise it's united we stand, but divided we fall. Maybe we don't know what to collaborate it means without competing. The thing is, we need to eat some humble pie. Sometimes we as women are very able to think, okay, we don't know everything, and we accept that, but we accept that as from a negative, reactive viewpoint rather than a positive viewpoint, saying, okay, I don't know a lot about this, but I do know a lot about something else. It's like what Carolina said. Maybe all of those that are here need to eat some humble pie and realize that this is all bigger than just one of us. We need to come together. We're complementary. There's space for everything because there's so much to be done. This funnel is so long and narrow that maybe we can all find our place and try to specialize and create a network which concentrates on work from the irrational cognitive and this ability to feeling able to do things. Especially now, let's talk about the agro-food business. Is it a sexy sector to be an entrepreneur in? Well, I'm saying that because there's this great unknown. Last year, we organized an international forum. Last year, in February, we organized this international forum to try to find the 100 young talents in the world of food. We made a tremendous mission to try to find under 30s in this world. We found Almudena, a livestock farmer from 22 in Asturias, who is recovering livestock, who's bringing livestock, and she's including technology and digitization to be more effective and more efficient in what she's doing. That's making this sector more sexy, as it were. So this is a livestock farmer. She's got her own website, Almudena. She's fantastic. She's a young girl. I think she's opening major possibilities. So let's think, are there any other examples of this? Because we want to be positive at this event, and we want to give examples of women. Sometimes we end up talking about men. Can you give us more examples? Apart from yourselves, of course. We need benchmarks. It's very, very important to have benchmarks in general when you're an entrepreneur. In the case of women, of course, as well. I'm not talking here about the best PhD holder in Cambridge, but rather a livestock herder who's 22, who's in Asturias, who's been very daring, who's connecting with people in many different ways. And when you spoke about whether agriculture is sexy, what figures say to us is it's not very attractive for youngsters. And why? Well, because people don't want to go back into the countryside. There's a very fragmented way of seeing city and rural areas and of what it's like living in a rural area. I think still people think of livestock herders as people out there with a stick and a big hat, and that's about it, big straw hat. But actually it is a place of opportunity, and digitization is getting there. There's a lot of innovation in this field, a lot of AI is being used, and the best example of that is Irache. Just to give you an example of female entrepreneurs in our sector, Irache, I think, is a great example of how you can be disruptive and get breakthroughs in the food sector. And of course, you need to be able to live wherever possible, but not just end up with this typical stereotype saying, oh, I just come from a little village and I do the same things in the same way that were done 100 years ago. No, a lot of it's been learnt in the last 100 years. You know, Sandra Lejarza, Sandra is in our association. These are women that give a different viewpoint, and that is what makes things sexy. I think there's some sectors which are far more masculine as well, but things are changing. Irache, do you have something to say? Can you tell us a little bit about, we've not spoken about your company, what you do in your company. In our case, I'm an engineer. What we provide are technological solutions using power ultrasound to treat food. In fact, we can replace pasteurization, for example, with a power ultrasound and at the same time retain 100% of the nutrients of this food. We've got some pilot projects for beer to extract aroma from some foods, especially fresh food. That's why I talk about the agri-food business. There are quite a few women in the agri-food business. I'm an industrial engineer, and there are quite a few women in agri-food business. But actually, I would say other sectors are far more masculine than the agri-food sector. There are female stars in our sector. I'd say that the majority of the people that I work with are women these days, although sometimes at a management level you'll find a man. But when you talk about labs, for example, labs for any department, any quality department, they're all women. Even some logistics and purchasing sectors, they're women. It's a very feminized sector, actually, the food sector. But when you look at management posts, which is who you need to go to when you need to negotiate something or close a deal, they tend to be men. It's the same thing. They entrepreneurs, but they don't want to sacrifice their personal time, so it ends up being men. But I'd say it's a fairly feminized sector in comparison to ICTs. If you go to the worlds of ICTs, it's really hard to find women. But in the case of agri-food business, there are more women protagonists. What we need to do is to be a little bit further up the pile. A participant actually has made a comment. I'm going to read the comment. It's quite a long one, but it's very important. Ana Isabel says, I've spent the last 5 years working at a consultancy company specialized in the environment and sustainability. And in the end, we go for a meeting. You end up waiting for a man or a woman. Another problem is maternity. You've spoken about that. It is a problem, maternity. Becoming a mother, it's a problem. When that time comes, difficulties become much, much bigger because it's really difficult to do everything you need. A team and partners that will back you. I noticed, Carolina, you weren't really agreeing with Irache. So I don't agree with her. I like to listen to what she has to say because everything that I know, and I basically work with the food industry. It is true that there are many women that work in quality, in very technical posts, but there are very few women in management posts. I don't know many quality directors, female quality directors, innovation directors, very few logistics directors that are women. Or distribution. I think there's only 1 or 2 at the moment nationally. So I think it is true. There are far more women, increasingly more women in large companies and in the food sector, but there's still much to be done. The same gap that you have to become an entrepreneur, you also get at a level of to get a management body. There's another brand called Convida. That's a female problem. It's a drink. There are fewer brands in biosensors in technology applied to food and farming sustainability. There's a lot of to be done there. We're a major fruit and veg exporters, and as Anna said, in the field of sustainability, when we talk about meat production, there's a lot to be done. I would encourage women to get involved because there are many women in scientific, studying scientific degrees. Go for it. And a question from Luis for Irache. How did you start and who supported you most? I worked for 6 years at a private engineering company in which we helped SMEs with R&D. I was in charge of the project department. I'm in engineering. I've got a technical background. One of the technologies that we knew about was power ultrasounds. So we asked for a European funding, and me and my partner, another woman who's the CEO of the company, we set up our company, I think, a year and a bit ago. We're now developing the company. We've got an MVP. We've got a pilot. We're starting out treating honey, but there are other applications. We're speaking to Spanish corporates to check the effectivity of our system. But first of all, when you're in this kind of industrial startup, what you need is lots of funding. Lots and lots of funding. So the first thing we had to do was to get a subsidy and then launch the company. Thank you so much. Thanks to all of you for having taken part in this debate. And also on the day of women in the rural world. So we've heard about all the different problems that are out there. We've heard you here for a call for collaboration. Competition's healthy, but collaboration more so. I don't know if you want to say any final words, because I didn't have time to go just quickly around the table. Do you want to say anything finally, or is it all been said? I would just say we've detected the problem. We know what the problem is. That roles are just repeated amongst new entrepreneurs. businesswomen. We've got a project called Impulsa, and in which those of us that have been about for longer are trying to pull the younger generation up by their bootstrings and giving them a leg up. We're there to help them. Thank you. Let's give everybody a leg up.
And to the people who are at the other side of the screen, watching us online, for participating, for your questions and your comments. We will make a quick break. We will be back in 10 minutes at noon, and we will head up to a motivational speech with the founder of Nova Meat. It's a very successful veggie meat that you might have tried by now. So we will see you back in 10 minutes. Thank you for being there. Hello again, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being with us today at this second EIT Food Fan and Fan event. Excuse us for this delay, but we are having connection problems with the next speaker, Giuseppe Scionti. He is the founder and CEO of a very successful startup that has been supported by EIT Food. We will be with him in some minutes, but now we are going to showcase EIT Food startups, just like the one of Giuseppe Scionti, but it's startups that have been supported this year in Bilbao Hub. And Juliette Bray, you manage the tour programs available to support startups in Bilbao. So welcome to the stage.
Thank you.
And what can we tell about these programs?
Yes, so my colleague Joseph spoke about the two programs that we manage in Bilbao, but the first one is the Seedbed program, which is for early stage startups. And this is very much a program to validate their business ideas. So they have 6 months to do this, and they receive training as well. And then we have the Accelerator program called the FAN, which is also held in Bilbao, and that's a 4-month journey. So applications will start in January next year. So I really encourage you all to apply, startups, entrepreneurs, and they will start in January and then close in March.
Well, so now we are going to listen to the founders of the startups that have participated in this year's Seedbed and FAN programs in Bilbao. Each one of the startups are adjusting some major challenges in food waste and food loss. So now let's kick off the startup showcasing game, the elevator pitch of the ventures focused on food waste. Adelante, video. ¿Cuál es esta?
This coating is able to extend shelf life of fruits up to 15 years and reduce mass loss up to 30%. Also reduce environment impact and has not impact on taste. Join us and save the planet one fruit at a time.
Pueden ponerse en contacto con nosotros en
la
página que han visto.
We at Biotip developed freshness stickers which change color exactly when product are spoiled. It can save the huge loss caused by inaccurate expiration date. These stickers are working on a wide range of products and was already validated at semi-industrial scale. It is patented and patent was granted already in US and Israel. We recently signed collaboration agreement with Tnuva, the largest dairy in Israel, and talking to additional corporates which understand that freshness sticker has the potential to improve their market share. Thanks.
Cereal grains are the backbone of our global food system. Yet, more than 20% of grains that enter silo are lost on average. because there is currently no way to verify the condition of grains while still in storage. Thanks to our patented method, a crover is the world's first robotic device able to swim through grains and monitor their condition, so that grain storekeepers can save an average of £24,000 per grain storage unit for a service license fee of £3,000. At Crover, we're a growing team of 6 targeting the £9 billion market of centralized grain storage sites. We have the first large-scale tests planned for October, and we're looking for £500,000 to take our product to market from next summer. So, if you think you could help Crover reach below the surface, come chat with us and help us start #SavingGrains.
Our innovation transforms organic waste into compost tea in just 72 hours. This takes place directly on our customer's production site, leading to the reduction of costs, complexity of waste management system, and environmental impact. Our process is a unique and patented system, which consists on a fully automated compost bin linked to our proprietary software that allows maintenance.
Safe technology, Continental Hypermarket, they reduced waste of fresh fruit and vegetables by 70%, which increased their revenue source by 30%. Using this technology doesn't need any chemical materials and is completely safe and sound. And it is faster than any other current preservation technologies. I am Mohammed, CEO of SoundSafe. If you are curious to know more, just drop me a line. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Matthias, founder and CEO behind FreshIndex. FreshIndex is a B2B cloud solution that aggregates quality and safety assurance data into valuable product information that can be used for product marketing in the industry or towards the consumer. We do this using AI and our digital twin approach that has been filed for patent. Happy to answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much for choosing them. Now we would like to know what the audience thinks about them. We kindly invite you to go to www.menti.com. It's very, very easy, and please use the code 9411804. 9411804. Because here is the Mentimeter. Would love you to answer to the following questions. Mentimeter, please. Let's see what the audience thinks about, let's see the opinion of the audience about the startups that have been supported by EIT food programs. Okay, here's the question. Who would you most want to be stranded on a desert island with? We are looking forward to getting lots of answers. Maybe it's because it's the first question that we are not getting any answers, or... Well, we're going to repeat, ask the audience to go to www.menti.com, and you can use the code you can see on the screen, 9411804. In order to answer the following question. It's a kind of a test to know if you are there, because we have more serious questions. Juliet, of course. Yeah. But who would you most want to be stranded on a desert island with? Could we just repeat? Okay. 100% with Biotip. Okay, 50%. Answers are coming in.
Here we are, yeah. Well, it was the first question, so we needed to give a short time. Oh, Biotip is slowing down. Crover.
Okay, looking good.
What about the others? Because they are all very interesting. All the CEOs are very interesting to go to a desert island with.
Okay, seems the winning starter changing.
well.
So I think people are now getting familiar with the Mentimeter.
Yeah, we needed to give some minutes, a few minutes to the audience to get familiar with the Mentimeter. We are asking you to answer these questions about the startups that have been supported by EIT Food this year in the hub of Bilbao. So here is the answer. Well, very equal actually, 20%. The audience has voted for.
So Bio2Coat, Crover, and Freeways. So the winner for that one is Bio2Coat. Who would want to be stranded on that desert island with the team? Should we go on to the next one?
Yes, yes. The CEOs of these 3 startups must be preparing their stuff to go to the island with the audience. Okay, next questions, please. So the people that didn't reach yet the Mentimeter, we kindly ask you to go to www.menti.com. And because we still have quite a few questions to answer.
There's another 2.
We are at the showcasing game of the startups and focusing on the ventures focused on food waste. Okay, second question, it's for you.
So this is really to test your listening skills. So which startup is tackling food waste by monitoring grains in storage? Again, you can see the website on the top and use the code. It seems everyone's been listening.
Yeah, everybody has
been. That's right. Can go on to the next slide.
So let's go to the next question. There is no doubt about this, and they have been listening carefully to the videos, to the pitches of the startups. The next question, please. Whose idea did you find the most interesting? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have 6 startups focused on food waste. Crover again. Well, Crover has been winning.
Looks like most interesting idea.
Crover.
Well, it looks like there's a winner for each. Bio2Coat coming up.
But in this section, at least for the moment, Crover is the clear winner of the Mentimeter focused on food waste. Okay, let's give a little more time to the audience to answer.
Okay, I think that we have Crover.
Yeah. Okay. So Crover, and what's the price of this game? What is
a great dinner in Bilbao?
A great dinner in Bilbao.
once you can travel, but we've been saying that from the start.
And a free ticket to the desert island.
Exactly.
To go to the desert island with the CEOs. No, just joking. In any case, these startups, they have their needs. So we can check them out with
yes. So this is very much a little section of how we can help these different entrepreneurs.
First of all, we will test the automated composter, and then we will carry out the laboratory analysis on the compost product, and then we will test the product in agriculture. For this reason, we are looking for partners in the organic agriculture sector who want to test our organic compost and design together a completely new organic fertilizer based on the customer's needs. We also need initial funds to proceed with the next steps. For this reason, we are looking for funds to take free waste to the next level.
Sounds safe. We need help to do market product fit for Spain and Germany. We need to be introduced to hypermarket managers in those countries and check our solution with them. We need help fundraising for seeding stage 500,000 to complete our prototype and make it ready to launch in 2021, and start our marketing efforts for Spain and Germany. Thank you.
Fresh Index addresses food producers and retailers alike. If you're active in this area or a digital solution provider, please get in contact with us and we can see how we can tailor our solution to your needs. Thank you.
Startups, and thanks to you for sending just a quick message to the startups in the Mentimeter via the conversation starter. How can we support these startups? We really appreciate your messages. Quick message, but it's very helpful.
So you all heard what they need support in. Some is funding, others is contact with different retailers. Going into different markets. So if you have any ideas, just post them here. Otherwise, we also encourage you to go to the application conversation starter, which you can find on the webpage of the event.
Yeah, a conversation starter, which is a very useful application in order to get in contact, get in touch with the startups that are pitching and that have been chosen this year to be supported by EIT Food.
Exactly, so they can basically just connect on that app and they can meet everyone who's registered for the event.
Yeah, because this is one of the main goals of this event is
to network virtually.
Yes. Get in contact with very inspiring people that could help us in our ventures. Well, let's see if we have any ideas to support. I have some investors to help you. I will set up meetings on conversation starter.
Wow, that's great. So let's see who that is for.
Yeah. If you could write more precisely, we will really appreciate it. Well, maybe later on.
Let's go to the next one.
Yes.
So the next group of startups.
They are focused on well-being. Is that right? Yeah, venture that focus on well-being. One of the important objectives of EIT Food is creating a healthier food system. We have been repeating it through the whole event. And so here we have a couple of startups that are addressing some of the challenges in health. Adelante el video.
Global alcohol consumption is dropping, but yet sales in no-low alcohol drinks are booming. And that's because consumers care about their health, their wellness. They want more control over their lives while enjoying life. That's why we created Talacar Ventures with the first machine for restaurants that reduces alcohol out of any bottle of wine in just minutes. And this will help restaurants to sell more wines and consumers drink wine in a much healthier way.
And say,
but this is very disruptive, isn't it?
Hello, everyone. My name is Marta. I'm the CEO of Neoxenica. At Neoxenica, we provide fast, reliable, and cost-effective analytical devices for food safety and quality control. We are able to reduce the time of analysis from 1 week to less than 1 working day, with the same performance of conventional analytical methods. At the moment, we are looking for both partners and funding to perform the full-scale industrialization of our devices. For that, we will integrate our prototypes with a user interface. We will perform the scale-up fabrication of both our instruments, our cartridges, and we would like to partner as well with 3 to 5 early adopters to test our technology. If you want to know more, please do not hesitate to contact me. Thank you very much for your attention.
Did you know that there are 2.5 billion people allergic to nickel in the world? This disease causes irritation, headache, nausea. We developed a nickel tester that allows people to understand if nickel is present in the food they eat, and also our sensor allows farmers, food producers, and even restaurants to evaluate the nickel quantity of the product they are selling. At the moment, we developed a prototype, and our goal is to transform it in the faster, cheaper, and accurate food nickel tester in the market.
Okay. Well, these are the 3 startups focused on well-being. Let's go back to the Mentimeter now to check either if you've paid attention or not. Well, actually, they are very disruptive startups, ideas, ventures. This is a very important key factor for EIT Food, I guess, Juliet.
Yes, exactly. So whose idea is the most disruptive or the most clever, let's say? Clever, disruptive.
Well, actually,
à la carte. So everyone wants to have non-alcohol wine. Well, they are addressing a key problem in our health issues today, drinking too much.
Well, I don't know if you ever heard of that. I mean, about the possibility of removing the alcohol from wine. I never heard about it before.
It's the only technology out there. So à la carte are really the pioneers in this. And basically, you can. The amazing thing is that you can order your wine, and then with the machine that they have, basically you'll be able to drink a glass of wine, the same quality of wine, but with the content of the alcohol reduced.
Yeah, that's
so no hangovers, and you can go back to work.
Yeah, good.
Top form.
Yeah, and it's very interesting if you have to drive afterwards. Well, now à la carte is sharing its success.
Neoscenica is also doing well. Wow. Great.
Yeah, and now Neoscenica is winning. Well, I mean, this is the Mentimeter. Thank you very much for participating. We must say to the audience, you are there, and this is the proof of it. Thank you for participating. So Neoscenica has won this first question. Let's go read the second one.
Second Mentimeter.
Second Mentimeter. Okay.
That's quite an easy one. So which startup lowers alcohol content from wine? Again, this was the test to see how well you have been able to listen.
Well, did anybody not listen very carefully? Okay.
Starting to correct themselves.
Again, so these are startups that have been supported by EIT Food Hub of Bilbao. There are different hubs in EIT Food Hubs all over Europe.
Exactly.
Aren't there?
Yeah, so we have a couple. So there's a hub in Munich, there's a hub in Helsinki, there's a hub in Zurich, another one in Cambridge. I left out. So those are really the main ones, and the Accelerator program takes place in those countries as well.
So in Bilbao, they support startups from
I left out Haifa
geographical.
in Israel.
Okay. So in Bilbao, they are supporting startups from the geographical area of Bilbao, or I mean Southern Europe, or or anyone can apply for that.
No, so any European-based entrepreneur, business owner, startup owner can apply to the different hubs. In Bilbao, we focus mainly on Southern Europe, on the Southern European market, and therefore tend to attract more startups that are based in Southern Europe. Or startups are looking to have an interest in the Southern European market. And the other hubs are very much based with startups in their own area, in their own region.
Here is the other question. Who is most likely to take a Zoom call in their pajamas?
So,
well, I don't know what they saw in a la carte ventures, CEO, an ingenious CEO. Well, it's a very funny question.
Often very difficult to tell unless you stand up. So, in most of their films, we only saw their faces.
Yeah, but nowadays, due to the pandemic, I mean, I would say, I can't find the word in English, but quien más, quien menos ha atendido alguna llamada de alguna manera con un atuendo o de alguna manera que no lo hubiera hecho antes de la pandemia. Yeah. Well, so I didn't see the definite answers of these questions, but so did we do all the questions? Did we ask all the questions?
All the questions. So yes, we've asked all the questions. So the next bit is, how can you help those startups? These startups have needs. So that we're now going to play, I think, a short video of them telling us how we can support them. So how can the audience, those that are listening, can help these startups?
Hi, my name is Aleix Barandiaran. I'm the CEO and founder of Alacar Ventures. And today at Alacar, we're very, very focused on investment. We just opened a Series A round of investment. We're asking for 5 million euros. And our intention is to close this round during the first quarter of 2021. I would like to meet investors, VCs, CVCs, family offices, and even business angels. Thank you very much.
Pero es que solo hemos hablado de los resultados de dos.
Hello everyone, my name is Marta and I'm the CEO of Neoxenica. At Neoxenica, we provide fast, reliable and cost-effective analytical devices for food safety and quality control. We are able to reduce the time of analysis from 1 week to less than 1 working day, with the same performance of conventional analytical methods. At the moment, we are looking for both partners and funding to perform the full-scale industrialization of our devices. For that, we will integrate our prototypes with a user interface. We will perform the scale-up fabrication of both our instruments, our cartridges, and we would like to partner as well with 3 to 5 early adopters to test our technology. If you want to know more, please do not hesitate to contact me. Thank you very much for your attention.
So this is again.
We carried out a competitor analysis and we can affirm that our solution will be the fastest way to analyze nickel presence in food. Basically, we want to sell the product to people affected by nickel allergy and companies in the food industry. For doing that, we need to find an industrial partner with experience in biomedical products for the manufacturing of the device. The development of the product will allow us to test it with the first customers, generate tractions, and raise funds.
This is what they need, the startups focused on well-being. Let's see what the participants say. Using the Mentimeter, how might you be able to help our startups? So we kindly ask you to send us or send the startups their messages, because they are really looking forward to reading your comments, your messages, your supportive messages.
So again, if you have any ideas, just post them here. And otherwise, again, we have the Conversation Starter app, and you can find the entrepreneurs there and connect to them directly.
Yeah, online meetings will be available right after this event.
Yeah. So maybe we just go on to the next group.
Yes,
the last group of today,
yes,
which is startups in sustainable agriculture. Someone's got a VC fund based in Dubai, and he's interested in à la carte. Okay, please get on to Conversation Starter. À la carte will be delighted to hear from you.
And for Neoxenica, I can introduce them to a partner of ours. Wow, Regeni, we might be interested. We'll reach out. Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of networking going on in
behind the
the
scenes.
Conversation Starter. Yes, But this is a first step, and for us it's very important because we can see that you are there. I mean, the audience is there and is participating, and it's a good start for a good network. Another
Okay, good.
message.
More contacts via la carte to introduce them to potential investors. Sarah, okay. Not quite sure what that means. Maybe it's a group. But anyway, please do connect to Conversation Starter, as that's where you can find them all.
And you will have an online meeting during this event, right after we finish the event. So let's move forward and focus on the third and last group. Can you tell us more about it, Juliette?
Well, this has been our biggest focus this year, is startups who are addressing some of our key challenges in agriculture and making it much more sustainable. So I must say that most of the startups doing the Accelerator program this year in Bilbao have mainly had a focus on agriculture. So we'll just show you a couple of the some of the startups' ideas, their pitches, and what they're doing with their ventures.
Yeah, so let's meet their founders. Video, por favor.
Every year, farmers all over the world lost more than 50% of their production. Preventing food from ending up in the bellies of the pests is a good start. AgroPest Alert supplies tools for the farmer to detect pests in their initial infestation stage so that they can be effectively controlled before they damage their crops. Please contact us and we will tell you how to do it. Thank you.
Hello everyone, this is Agdeha. My name is Mert and this is my partner Can. We both are biologists in Istanbul University. In Agdeha, we produce sustainable food and feed alternatives from the microorganisms called algae to the industries depend on fish-based products. And we do it in a new innovative way which lowers the cost and increases the efficiency. This allows algae to be an alternative to animal-based products. Thank you so much.
Hello everybody, I'm Arda, co-founder and CTO of Nanomic Biotechnology. Nanomic develops plant-based biopesticides alternative to chemical ones. Plants produce many molecules to defend themselves in nature for centuries. Thanks to the microcapsulation technology we have developed, we make these molecules more durable and make it possible to use them as effective as chemical pesticides, but safer, cleaner, and cheaper. Thank you.
My name is Martijn Lukaerts from Oddbot. We have developed a mechanical autonomous weeding robot that utilizes AI and machine learning. We know that this solution is not only vital for organic farmers, but also for the conventional farmers who want to replace the use of chemicals. And for organic farmers, as an alternative to hand weeding. Please visit our website, www.odd.bot, to learn more. Thank you.
Hello, my name is João Melo. I'm the founder of OpenGrow, and at OpenGrow research and develop automation solutions for small and medium growers. The industry already has a highly automated system for growing plants, but we know there are several verticals that are growing in small containers and small farms that also want to have access to this kind of technology. And that's why OpenGrow exists, to provide this technology, to develop it, and to sell it to our clients. Thank you very much.
Plant on Demand is an online platform for the short food supply chain. We provide local farmers, cooperatives, small retailers, and food markets with their own sales portal built specifically for the agri-food sector. The platform also automatizes the order preparation, the logistics, and the paperwork, saving up to 60% of the admin time. Our aim is to make local production as competitive and convenient as traditional means are, and to foster cooperation along the chain, helping to promote more sustainable production and consumption systems.
Hi, my name is Christoph. I'm the founder and CEO of Circuit AI for Livestock Health Management.
When pig farming started in Mesopotamia, people used their eyes to monitor the pigs and detect sicknesses. Today we use the same solution. A farm worker has 1 second per day per animal, and that's the current limitation. What can you do in 1 second? Due to this, there is high mortality rate, no early sick detection, and last but not least, animal welfare requirements. So here comes Circuit's solution. We oversee the animals with standard security cameras, we send the footages to our servers, analyzed by artificial intelligence. If something is going wrong, for example, a pig is drinking twice as normal, we alert the farmers through our platform so they can save €2.4 per each pig, which could be all the profit he makes. Our solution is modular, so we can scale it up for all animal species, and it's a €400 billion market. So if you see the current solution sustainable, we cannot help you, but if you say no, we need a 21st century solution, then Circuit is the right partner.
Just to point out, the AgroPest Alert is the founder is the CEO of this company is Luis Holder. So just for those who are interested in AgroPest Alert, you can the entrepreneur behind this great venture is Luis Holder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very important to make corrections.
This little mistake that was there.
And now let's go back to the Mentimeter.
Okay,
because it's time to answer the questions of what the audience thinks about these startups focused on sustainable agriculture, which is one of the major challenges of the humanity, I might say. Whose idea do you think tackles the most important problem? So we're waiting for your answers.
And again, check the code. Apparently it's a different code for each.
Oh yes, that's right. Yeah, it's very important to change the code, which is 838150. It's for each Mentimeter. We have a different code. So we are waiting for your answers. For the moment, just 2 startups supported by the IT Food Hub in Bilbao have the most, well now 3 startups, the most appreciated by the participants.
Okay, interesting. So Agida, OpenGrow, Plant on Demand, all very different challenges.
Well, I guess all of them, they tackle the most important problem, sustainable agriculture. And
okay, looks like it's OpenGrow leading, Portuguese-based startup. Excellent.
Well, but
should we go on to the next question?
Yeah, we could congratulate all the participants because all of them got. Yes, can we go to the next question, please? In the Mentimeter, which startup
is working to automate weeding?
What do you think? I can't see very well.
On the same level.
Can we say that the audience paid good attention or not?
Stood on the. So Oddbot has developed a robotic device exactly to eliminate weeding. So the weeds in the fields.
We really encourage the participants, the people who are following us online, to answer these questions, participate on the Mentimeter. The CEOs, the founders of the startups that have been supported by EIT food supporting programs, they will be very thankful. So here are the answers. What can we say about it?
Well, they got it right. Most of them got it right. It is indeed Oddbot. Should we go on to the next question?
Yeah, let's go to the next question. And who will be the first unicorn? Well, I'm not sure if anybody knows what a unicorn means in business language.
I think they know. Here they go. They're already putting it. But would you like to say it just in case?
Yeah, let's see the definition of Wikipedia that says unicorn is a term in business world who indicate a privately held startup company valued at over 1 billion. The term was coined in 2013 by venture capitalist Aileen Lee, choosing the mythical animal to represent the statistical rarity of such successful ventures.
So OpenGrow, wow, OpenGrow is the lead.
Can we remember? Can we remind the audience what is it about? OpenGrow. What are they focused on?
So OpenGrow is the founder of OpenGrow is João Melo. So for those who would like to connect with him, he's on the conversation starter, and very much it's all about automation growing, so indoor farming, and this is what OpenGrow focuses on. So I again encourage you to connect with João Melo on conversation starter.
Yeah, for sure. He will be happy to receive your messages. So congratulations, João. Well, and of course the other speakers.
Should we now go on to the listening to their needs?
Yes, let's listen to the needs of the startups. Video, por favor.
Again, this is meant to be Luis Holder.
Every year, farmers all over the world lost more than 50% of their production. Preventing food from ending up in the bellies of the pests is a good start. AgroPest Alert supplies tools for the farmer to detect pests in their initial infestation stage so that they can be effectively controlled before they damage their crops. Please contact us and we will tell you how to do it. Thank you.
In Agdeha, we spent the last 4 months having meetings with customers and understanding them. Now we know what our customer needs, and we are looking for investors and funding to scale up our business to deliver value for them. Thank you.
Hello everybody, I'm Arda, co-founder and CTO of Nanomic Biotechnology. We will start the next investment process in the next 2 months in order to increase our production capacity and obtain a license in Europe. In addition, we are looking for local partners or corporates to test our broad spectrum biofungicide product in fields, vineyards, or different fruits and vegetable groups. Thank you.
My name is Martijn Lukacs from Oddbot. We have developed a mechanical autonomous weeding robot that utilizes AI and machine learning. We know that this solution is not only vital for organic farmers, but also for the conventional farmers who want to replace the use of chemicals. And for organic farmers, as an alternative to hand weeding. Please visit our website www.odd.bot to learn more. Thank you.
In this CIT community program, we are looking for investment. We have a product that is directed mostly for small growers, and it's a one-shot solution. Basically, we are looking for investment to create web services on the top of our product and increase our revenue, and also change a bit our product line so we can tackle bigger commercial growth.
So what we need from the EIT program is, on one hand, investment. We are looking for 250,000 euros investment to develop the new modules of our platform in business intelligence with big data, and to accomplish our marketing strategy to be able to scale up as a company. On the other hand, we're hoping to get introduced and exposed to the key stakeholders in the short food supply chain dynamization community. We want to become a major technological stakeholder within the chain, and for that we need the right connections and the right knowledge.
So what do we need as Circuit? We need strategic investors in AI, artificial intelligence, or in agriculture. Second, we need partners active in the livestock or pig business. Can be feed or genetic companies. Third, we are looking for clients who are working with pigs, like agriculture integrators, or pig farmers. Thank you.
Well, your potential partners or clients, they might be here among the audience. So we can ask the audience to participate on the Mentimeter and say how might you be able to help our startups. This can be a start.
Let's see what answers we'll get. Let's wait a bit this time.
Yes. And of course, you can go to the register on the conversation starter if you didn't do that yet, and contact either the CEOs, founders of these startups, or the other participants of this event, because more than 200 people have registered on the second EIT Food, Fun and Fan event, here broadcasting from Bilbao. Well, we have no answers.
It's coming.
Okay.
Can do a pilot test with AgroPest. So again, just a reminder, the founder of AgroPest is Luis Holder. So you can connect with him on Conversation Starter.
For Nanomic, might be interested in field test.
Excellent. So we have Open Grow that can be connected with a VC fund. Brilliant.
Yeah, well, this is actually one of the goals of this event, is to make a good networking.
Someone may know an AI investor for Circuit. Brilliant. That's great. Much needed.
Well, and while we wait for some other comments or answers, if I want to apply to one of the EIT food programs, what can I do, Juliet?
So we recommend that one is you can go onto our website, eitfood.eu, and you can also download our startup guide, which is extremely helpful if you're looking to launch your own business, and if you're already an entrepreneur. And through that, we will send you a newsletter where you'll get regular updates of the application dates for all our programs. So I'm just a reminder, Seedbed and Fan, the applications will open in January, and they'll run till the end of March. And again, if you have any questions, you can just write an email to me. That's it.
Right now.
Right now.
You will be answering as soon as possible, of course. Well, Juliet Bray, thank you very much for being with us.
And thank you to our startups for their little films, their short pitches, and telling us more about their ventures.
Yeah, and we hope the audience too. Well, that's what it seems actually, because you sent us a lot of messages. We hope you enjoyed the startup showcasing game, an important step for your networking. So now you know that you can continue networking on the conversation starter, and that online meetings will be available right after the event.
And during. Brilliant. Great.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much.
Now we have to move forward. It's time to speak with one of the persons, of the CEOs, founder of a startup that he actually participated in last year's program. Juliet is still with me. It's Giuseppe Scionti. So what did he do? Last year he participated in which program?
So Giuseppe was a participant of the FAN Accelerator, the Food Accelerator Network program, which took place last year in Bilbao. So he should be, is he connected online for us to speak to him?
Yes, I think he's already connected. Giuseppe, good morning. Well, good afternoon already.
Hello.
Time goes by so fast.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. So, we are really looking forward to knowing about your startup, successful startup, about veggie meat, Nova Meat. So I give you the floor. Now that we have connection,
Thank you very much.
we have no time to
Yes.
so go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, we will talk about Nova Meat, which is Still a very young startup. We participated last year in the EIT FUN Accelerator. We've been very happy because we got a very strong support from the EIT food community. So happy to talk about our startup and launch some slides so you can follow a little bit our story. All right. So it's about plant-based meat or meat alternatives. It's in the realm of alternative proteins, as you might imagine. So in this field, plant-based meat is a very big field where you need new technology to go beyond the burgers. So if you pass the slide, please. Everybody has already understood today, and also from previous knowledge that we have learned in the past years, everybody, that the current system of livestock system is unsustainable for different reasons, not efficient, greenhouse gas emission. We use 77% of all agricultural land worldwide and about 1/4 of the total fresh water. So if we move to the next slide, what I wanted to show is that it's not only that it's unsustainable right now, it's becoming more and more unsustainable year after year. India and China that now don't eat that much meat per person, well, actually it looks like that they will need around 50% of the world's total protein in the next only 5 years, which means that it's becoming worse because there is a need for the growing population to have access to good protein of different sources. But the problem is that we eat too much meat, and this is a trend that is growing, and this is becoming more and more unsustainable. So if we pass to the next slide, we will see that in Europe and in the US, for example, in the UK, we have detected in the field a big increase in the last year already. 65% of UK consumers eat already meat substitutes. And if we check, for example, the US, so in the general Western world, this is very common, where it's already a mature market. We see that the plant-based meat sales in food service have been growing in the last year by 37% annually, which is amazing numbers. So if we see the next slide, we will see that from September 2020, the pandemic has accelerated this transition towards alternative protein, specifically alternatives to meat, plant-based meats. And we've seen in Tesco 300% increase in sales in retail. So this is real recent numbers from last month. And if we move to the next slide, we see that this pandemic has accelerated the shift towards plant-based meat, also because there has been a big closing down of many meat processing plants, particularly pork processing plants. We have seen a 20 billion loss in terms of economic loss, and this translated into something which is actually good for the field, which is acceleration towards a system that needs to be more resilient, right? So we have detected in some data in the States have realized that there has been a 265% increase of plant-based meat sales during the peak of COVID, according to Financial Times. So if we move to the next slide, what we will see is that the market is growing so fast in the next 10 years, so that the compound annual growth rate, so the growth rate of this market, is increasing at an average which is higher than 20%, which is not common. Actually, Bloomberg has done a study, and the plant-based meat segment was the highest growing segment above the other segment in the food industry that they were studying. And there is different evaluations, but for example, if you calculate Barclay's evaluation, if the total of the meat market is about 1.4 trillion in the next few years, in the next 10 years, then if the alternative to meat are around 140 billion in size of the market, this means that around 10% of the meat of the next few years will be coming in the form of a plant-based meat or a fungi-based meat, algae-based meat, something which is a meat substitute. If we move to the next slide, we see that it's not only a big market opportunity, but there is a big challenge. You need to go beyond the burgers, which means producing the next generation of plant-based meats. In particular, the alternative meat industry is very it's under quite a big problem, which is that either you do quite well the burgers, you can do very well the hot dogs, you can do very well the meatballs that are plant-based, the taste, the texture when it comes to ground meat. But when you're talking about fibrous meat, you are limited to chicken chunks, chicken strips. There are very good startups and companies doing chicken strips and tuna chunks that are really realistic in terms of taste, appearance, nutritional properties, and flavor. But if you want to do the holy grails of meat, so for example, whole muscle cuts, imagine a beef stick or a pork whole muscle cut, then it's a big problem. If we move to the next slide, Financial Times featured us and saying with the title, "The alternative meat industry is moving beyond the burger," and the technology there is missing. You cannot. Right now, you cannot get a realistic beef stick anywhere in the world, a plant-based beef stick or a plant-based realistic fibrous pork meat. You can get either ground meat, or if it's fibrous, it's a soy-based or gluten-based extrusion technology that we are using right now in the field. So if we move to the next slide, talking about Novameat very briefly, we developed the first micro-extruded plant-based fibrous meats. On the left, you can see our beef stick product. On the right, the pork meat product. It's a pork skewer. And if we move to the next slide, the Guardian has called our beef stick the most realistic plant-based stick in the world. And this title is interesting because it doesn't say the most realistic 3D printed plant-based stick, because as you know, at small scale, you might know or not, but at small scale, we are doing this with a machine which is looking like a 3D printer, right? We don't use 3D printers when we scale up, but in general, this was the best looking or most realistic plant-based stick worldwide this year, 2020. If we move to the next slide, we have also achieved control of the microstructure, which is 1.6 times superior to any competitor in the space, which means that it's a superior level of complexity. And what we do is control of the microstructure so that it resembles animal muscle in the micro, if you see it on the microscope as well. These microfilaments that we create resemble the animal muscle fibers. If you move to the next slide, we display in these in general parameters. You need to get the whole sensorial experience, the texture, the taste, the appearance, the nutritional properties all together. Some companies or some technologies are very good in authenticity. For example, cell-based meat, such as appearance, is very good if you get the authenticity of cell-based meat, or Impossible Foods, Beyond Meat, great taste. But if you want to get all these parameters together, especially if you want to do a whole muscle cut, beef stick, pork meat, lamb meat, seafood, it's very, very complicated. Nobody is able right now, and we are moving, not only us, right? A group of startups are creating the future of alternative meats. And if you move to the next slide, please. What we see is that it's important not only for beef stick and pork. You need, and you will find, and you will need to find, if you want to substitute meat in some part of the retail, you want to have a variety of types of meat. You need to be very flexible, very important, especially during the COVID situation. You want to be respectful, and also not only respectful, but also try to invert climate change by supporting biodiversity, so avoiding monoculture, being able to avoid all the specific ingredients that now are very common, and try to use alternative proteins that maybe are humble but are very interesting to study, and also being able to personalize and customize nutrition for athletes, NASA astronauts, ESA astronauts, etc. If we move to the next slide, it's about the technology resembling the animal muscle microfibers. This is an actual image of the muscle. And if we move to the next slide, what we try to recreate is these microfilaments, internally a very good control of the structure, with a structure that is very oriented in a specific direction. And if we move to the next slide, what we see is that this technology is applicable. You can use it for different meat and seafood applications. We study the potential by studying the texture that we can get, and the texture we can get can cover a variety of meat and seafood. And if we move to the next slide, there are many startups, but if it comes to being realistic, being able to recreate the texture, the appearance, the nutritional properties, and the taste, few startups are working on that. There is Novameat, Redefined Meat is also in the galaxy of EAT food, there is Miti doing it, Mycelium, there is Savorit in Israel doing with some kind of 3D printers, there is some great companies that are working in the space, but very few of them work on the next generation. One I mentioned are the only few in the world, I would say, together with a couple more like Rival Food based in Wageningen University, that are going beyond extrusion to get this whole muscle cuts like a steak and pork meat. And if we move to the next slide, what we see is that we're based. It's important if you open a startup, it's a suggestion for the new startups to really have something tangible. In our case, it's a manufacturing IP, which is not about just a small-scale demonstration with a 3D printer, but the possibility to demonstrate this can be scaled up with bigger machine with a throughput of 500 kilograms per hour. So right now we are working on scaling up with very big machines. And if we move to the next slide, the importance is also the business model, detecting what is the need in the market. The need in the market right now is mostly on large scale. The big clients, big corporates want to go beyond the burgers and want to be part of this transition. So they would like to have access to technology in the form of licensing. But we have detected very traction in the field of pet food, where Nestlé Purina contacted us, and we opened a new brand called Natu, where we are studying if this technology can be applied in a different format, but also for the pet food applications. We are done some prototypes for cell-based applications, and we are working with some top restaurants. And today we show a new top restaurant that yesterday agreed with us to collaborate. It's one of the top best restaurants in the world. If you move to the next slide. We work with big machines that are similar to extruders. These are images of some of the machines. These ones on the left are extruders that we are modifying to be able to extrude at much higher capacity, and not, of course, with traditional high moisture extrusion, but modify it with our technology, micro extrusion. And if we move to the next slide, we can see also that we have closed a deal yesterday with Disfrutar restaurant, number 9 in the world best restaurant. Number 4 in the Best Chefs Award, 2 Michelin star, and they are top chefs from El Bulli. If we move to the next slide, we can see some prototypes that we are doing in cell-based meat, actually able to do something very thick. We think very soon, in the next couple of months, we will be able to show the thickest cell-based meat prototype in the world. This is what I believe we can do. Next slide is Nestlé CEO testing our prototypes. This is not Nestlé Purina CEO, but Nestlé Global CEO. So we are being contacted by big corporates to see if this makes sense to scale up, which is what we want to do to make an impact. This is not just about doing something fun for creativity and creating something unique, but also something that can really impact the future of the food supply system and create the most sustainable one. If we move to the next slide, we're almost done. And it's about being able to understand what is the need from these sectors and where you can get some revenue so that your startup can be sustainable. You need to detect which client, how much revenue you can get from the different verticals. So we are calculating that in the next few years to go to market and to restaurants. I mean, to supermarket and retail and to restaurants. And if we move to the next slide. The team, happy to show you the team, somebody you might know, people that is working with Asti know Clara, you might know Dan from Ukraine Capital, somebody of you already know Joanne from II FUN&FAN when we participated in the Accelerator. And if we move to the next slide, it's about ending my presentation saying that all we do is about, for different reasons, somebody's more focusing on health, environment, animal welfare, but it's about everything needs to be sustainable and aligned with sustainable development goals in the sense of being able to change in a sustainable manner how we manage the resources of our planet. The last slide, please, if we move. It's about something, not only applying this on the planet, you can think about crazy ideas, apply this to space, collaborate with top chefs, like I mentioned, the Michelin star, collaborate with the Good Food Institute. We'll be speaking in the European Parliament, in the UN, and we have been talking with the World Food Programme, so to try to create as much impact as possible. So thank you very much. In the next slide, you can see just our logo, and how you can contact us in the next few days if you wish.
Well, thank you very much, Giuseppe Cionti, for sharing your successful and inspiring journey with us and with the audience. I Wonder if there are any questions from the audience. I'd like to ask you, while we wait for some questions or comments through Conversation Starter and through the question box, what did you think about this idea? I mean, was it very clear since the beginning? Well, we can't hear you. Hold on, just a second.
Yes, I
Giuseppe,
think
yes, now we
okay.
can hear you. Go ahead.
Yes. No, actually, I was since I'm very very young, I was very interested by two main backgrounds. One is bioengineering, trying to do something for the society in terms of recreating organs and tissues. And this is why I've been doing my PhD in tissue engineering. I've been assistant professor in bioengineering and in specific field of tissue engineering, recreating organs in the lab for during 10 years. And the other really interesting part for me was to do something good for the planet. And I found a way when I was creating some organs in the lab. I was actually creating a prototype of a human ear, and I thought that it was so realistic, so similar in terms of texture to an animal tissue. And I brought this to some top chefs in the area of Barcelona to think together if it was something interesting. And I got the idea. Yeah, I was listening to Beyond Meat, Impossible Foods, and all the great startups, Mosa Meat, here in Europe, creating the first cell-based meat hamburger. And I thought, why can't somebody coming from tissue engineering, creating organs and tissue, why can't we apply the same technology and create a piece of muscle instead? Nobody's able to create a piece of whole muscle cut. So then I was able to combine bioengineering with my other great interest, which was doing something good for the environment.
Yeah. Sally Ann Dixon is asking, do you see it as positive thing that companies like Tyson and Cargill are investing in alternative proteins, or given they were the businesses that created many of the problems in the first place, we will see more of the same?
Well, I think it's very interesting. There is some institutions. Imagine, I don't know, the Good Food Institute or other institutions. The movement around animal welfare, environment, and has changed very much. And this, when we got the technology in place to create a superior meat alternative, imagine an Impossible Burger, then this was the switch when the consumers were really interested in something that really resembles like meat. And it's very important to learn what the consumer wants so that the big companies like Tyson, Cargill, JBS that now are creating plant-based meat, they detected that they don't want to lose this share of the market. They don't want to do the same as the dairy industry because, as you know, two of the biggest dairy companies in the world have gone bankrupt this year because plant-based milk has become around, I don't know if it's 20% of the total market. Everybody knows that it's not a matter of if the future is going to be also plant-based meat, but the only question is when this will happen. So these clever companies decided that it would be better not to wait for a new Impossible Burger or new Beyond Meats or Nova Meat to come. They thought we should go ourselves. But if the objective is the shift, the transition towards a more sustainable system, then I am in favor of shifting the system together with the existing system. In the sense of, if we go confronting the meat industry face by face, this has been done for many years, and this doesn't work that easy because they have so much power, and it's better to collaborate and help them shift. Imagine, these big companies are driven by the market, and I don't know, any company, Nestle, Unilever, driven by the market. So we don't need to think that if a new system evolves, a new company evolves, these new companies will be much different or worse or better. It's just the market works the same. So we think it's better to shift the system together with existing companies and convince that the future needs to be sustainable. We have been seeing great improvements by the big corporates in the space of the general food industry to adapt to the needs of the consumers, the need of the governments, the need for biodiversity, the need for the environmental positive, and also for animal welfare. So I'm in favor for the system to change also the big companies from the past to adapt to this situation.
Faraid is asking that she's vegetarian. Soy vegetariana y consumo este tipo de producto. Algunos en el mercado son de difícil digestión. ¿Usted toma alguna medida para aumentarla o para mejorar la digestión?
Should I just answer in Spanish or English? What do you think?
As you like, we have translators, so interpreters, so
I
what
can answer in
you
English.
prefer. Okay.
So the question was about the digestibility and if this can be improved in terms of the nutritional properties. I think that there is many different kinds of startups and companies. There are companies that are specifically focused on plant-based meat ingredients. So these providers are working very hard either on proteins or on the oils or on the fibers or on the aromas, natural aromas or the colorants, so that these ingredients are comparable so that they can sell these ingredients for the plant-based meat industry, which means that yes, already there are very good providers that can provide very good quality of their ingredients in terms of nutritional properties, and this will improve now that there is so much investment in the space. Imagine Cargill has invested 70 million the last year in Puris, which was just producing or collecting, yellow pea protein, the specific or pea protein. So a specific pea protein that has this specific emulsifying properties, and this means that once you do a shift, all the system changes. So also the providers and the fact that this needs to be digestible, etc. So yes, if you are flexible and your company, your processing is flexible to work with a variety of ingredients, you will be able to have a quick transition, and already there are products that are very good in digestibility and in nutritional properties in the market.
And thank you. Mari Carmen de Sanchez asks, people say that the environmental benefits of companies like Impossible Foods are not so different compared to pasture-grazed cattle that are responsibly managed. What do you think, Giuseppe?
I think it's important to have independent studies, analysis, so that these external agencies can go there to the companies or come to Novamit and check if it's really better for the land use, for the energy use, if it's better for less water use. I mean, if you do a scientific analysis and it's an independent agency, then in this sense, I think it's possible to demonstrate that it's not true. I think it's not true. I think you lose a lot of efficiency when you cultivate, when you have the plant-based ingredients, then the animal eats the ingredients and transforms these ingredients into meat. This is a process which the animal think that the animal transform these proteins in these amino acids that they get from land for their muscles to work as muscles. They don't just translate this protein in this plant-based protein to animal protein for us to eat that. Okay, so it's important for the muscle to work. So because we don't need to this plant-based meat to work as a muscle, then we can save a lot of energy. This is a simple physics.
And the last question, Sancho Pancho asks, which market sector do you think will be the first to convert en masse, pet food or human food, to alternative proteins?
Yeah, actually, it's growing very fast. The compound annual growth rate of pet food, according to the statistics, it looks like the food is going faster, but we don't know if we reach the plateau earlier and the pet food is becoming exponential, so it's very difficult to calculate. What we know is that it's depending what kind of ingredients the pet food industry uses from meat, right? If they get not the premium meat, all right, then when we shift towards plant-based meat, all the industry will be changed, so it will be cheaper in large scale for all the industry, the pet food industry as well, together with the human food industry to use plant-based ingredients. So it's everything is connected, because if you have less animals needed, then it's cheaper and more economic to use plant-based alternatives for dog food as well. It's very curious because cats now are considered carnivores. Pets are not considered carnivores, so ourselves, with our brand NATO, we are working with Nestlé Purine and Accelerator to study this exactly this analysis of the market. and to study if this technology can be used at the beginning for dog snacks, and if the consumers are ready for it, and if it really has some additional added value. We think so. We think it's a huge market. In 2025, the dog food market should be around 77 billion. So, and the impact that it has on the environment is huge.
Well, thank you very much, Giuseppe Scionti, for sharing your venture journey of Nova Meat. You are the CEO of Nova Meat. Thank you very much for sharing your experience with us and for participating at this second EIT Food event, Fun and Fan event, broadcasting from Bilbao in the Basque Country, Spain. Now we are going to start wrapping up this event. It's time to close it, but there's still a lot of networking to do online. Y es que, bueno, we really hope it was an inspiring event for you. And estaba hablando del networking, justamente, ¿no? Que es uno de los distintivos de
networking, which is one of the main elements of this event. And according to the conversational starter, Begoña, director of the IT Food, said it is working really good. Yes, that is what we are seeing. This is why one of our main targets today is to promote networking. The event closes now. Thank you to the some 15 speakers that share their ideas with us. Thank you for whatever you propose for the food agricultural sector. Thank you to all the startups sharing their ideas and teams with us. Thank you for being part and sharing their results and fostering innovation by doing so. But this is not the end of this event. This afternoon, through conversational starter, many encounters will take place. That was our goal. This was like the seed for a networking activity. So entrepreneurs, speakers, startups, thank you to you all for sharing your ideas with us. Should you have any comments, any ideas to share, please do count on us, because that is really our goal, to spread ideas. And it is not only me. Here we have some 15 people, technicians, interpreters that made this possible. So we had to adapt to these new ways of communicating. It is not as warm as personal contact, but I think through this media we can sort of get closer to you, which is something we do need now to get closer to each other. Thank you very much for your participation. I hope to see you next year. Sure, we will be holding a new food event next year. Well, thank you very much also, Vanessa, for conducting this event. Hopefully there will be lots of networking in between. Bye-bye. Thank you.